Back. Oh shit! What happened? Okay, think I'm live. I think I'm live. Yes, I see Baba Yaga Forest Dweller already out there saying, "Damn, it's Saturday already." Yes, it is Saturday. And I know this week is kind of wet ass for me and Jose because Forest Dweller already out there saying, "Damn, it's Saturday already." Yes, it is Saturday. I know this week is kind of wet ass for me and Jose because I hear somebody's
The background needs to be muted.
Somebody's YouTube in the background.
Sorry, was listening to other things earlier. My bad.
All right, and let me double check. I think we're live on Rockfan also.
Sorry, again.
No, you're good. It looks like we already got a spammer in here. All right. Which kind of works. I don't know. I've noticed also. No matter whenever I set the stream, I can set the stream like 2 weeks from now, and it's literally going to be somebody sitting there waiting on me already. So I'm like, that's kind of odd that somebody would wait 3 weeks straight for me to go live. So either they have a
he's your biggest fan. The biggest fan.
The biggest fan. I tend to think that it's some kind of, oh shoot, we got John in the building. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry, forgot to shout out Demon 1800. I see Tina in the building. So it is definitely going to be a fun show. Let's see, what has it been? About 2 weeks ago, we were talking origins of the Illuminati. And we skipped around on some stuff. I think we gave enough info for everybody to be able to figure out. Jack, you were there too, right?
Yep.
All righty, cool. Yeah, that's what I thought. And Warren says, "Who invited the fuzz?" Throwing in the jokes already. It is good to have you back, Uncle Warren. Definitely have missed you. We're gonna have to next week. I'm gonna have to have a show where it's not as much crazy crap talking about, and then have you in here so we can lighten the mood a little, because this is gonna get into some weird shit. That's I guess the technical term for it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Give my Rockfin audience a little bit of time to catch up. So yeah, I guess I'll do my hellos to everybody. If you guys cannot tell or notice, we got a couple of our returning champions to tonight's show. We got Jack. Sith is in the building. How are we doing tonight, Jack?
Good.
Good. And then we got Shadow Band, of course.
What's up, everybody?
And then for those who do not know or not familiar, down at the bottom, the man who is titled as Fuzz is my good co-host and friend Jose, who helps me with the show Hebrew Apologetics. He's my co-host and brother, and so we go into a lot of scriptures. And so since we're going to be talking spiritual issues on this one, I thought it would be good to have him along. For those, so I can answer this question already ahead of time, if you wonder, what is that smoking incense type stuff, you guys? Fuzz, can you lay it out for them so they have a clue what's going on, so we don't have the questions later?
All right, let me pull it up.
And oh yeah, for you guys who don't know, Fuzz almost talks in scripture. So if you ask him a question, you're probably gonna get a scripture back. Just be prepared.
Once.
All right.
Is it
All right.
Sage?
This is Psalms 141 and 2. Let my prayer be set forth before thee as incense, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice.
Beautiful scripture. What he actually is burning the incense would be frankincense and myrrh. So that's what it would be, going back to Bible scriptures. And I want to put out a disclaimer early before we get going. Like I've said before, it is not for you all to have to believe the beliefs of the elites or to believe the beliefs of anything that we bring up. But it's important to understand the beliefs so you can know when something is being manipulated, twisted, or, you know, so you can just have a better understanding of what the elites are trying to do. Because we always talk about like Sun Tzu, Art of War, Know Thy Enemy. This is kind of one of those things. So you can't understand the elites' practices if you don't know what the elites are trying to do. And I would also say that this is going to dovetail into some research which Shadow and Jack are doing right now. So make sure you memory bank all of the stuff that we're talking about. Anything you guys wanted to add before I throw the intro?
So
No.
I just wanted
it.
to throw out there I know Marcus uses this show to talk all about politics and proposing solutions through like a secular lens, but through the spiritual side of things, if you happen to hone in on the beliefs, the doctrines, and the faiths of those of the Freemasons and the elites of the world, what better way to combat them than actually going up against than following their antagonists, which we believe is the Word of God.
Oh, well said. I see Mr. Streets is in the house also. So I'm going to go ahead. Let's skip over to the intro and let's get this party started.
You were here because you have a question. Really get down to understanding this political matrix.
Out there, the stunt double. He walked out. He's got an oximeter on his back. I'm like, you got to keep other. You know, Marcus said on his other show. You know, he was like, you know, American politics is simply pro wrestling.
He became afraid of everyone because people were reporting on each other.
We're living out Minority Report too as well. And you know why? You know why we know that, boss? Because we've been reporting on it. Yeah, I know.
All the black people in this country be willing to take a reservation.
That's what the Nation of Islam was asking for.
Put a couple of clips together.
It's crazy to see how much Martin Luther King really began to look like, damn, man, Malcolm was fucking right.
I mean, what is the elite's end game?
There's this assumption that as a black commentator or a black journalist that you're not informed.
Relationships, that's a skill we have to learn.
It's even more kind of mind-blowing because we're supposed to be the multicultural space.
Trying to drum up money to keep the war machine going so they can keep the donors happy.
Yeah. Do the Chinese own part of that?
This began a long time ago. Ukraine has had a neo-Nazi problem for decades.
Proof of sanction, am I right?
I don't know if Domcopters will do it, but something's got to be able to save the world.
From the private industry here.
You know, like I say, people come on here and they can say stuff they don't normally say on their own shows, which is fine.
Oh, it's McDonald's. You do.
Ooh.
And their cholesterol is going to go down. Yeah, good.
Look, we only exist because we have the biggest military, kid.
And silencing a person like Julian Assange. Because it affects everybody. And today, last week, believe you me, because they know who you are. They watch. They got people that's going out there. They don't want you guys having the conversations that you're having on this show. Mm-hmm. So it affects the political matrix today.
Yes, the political matrix we have started. I don't know. I think I like that intro. I might keep that one for a little while. You guys know I'm always changing intros, but I think I like
I still
that
believe Domcopters will save the world. So
that's what I'm saying. With that one, I think I caught Jack in like his perfect essence because that is definitely a so Jack thing to say, and so it is definitely a lot of fun.
Stack up, Domcopter squad.
Yes. In fact, I'm gonna have you, Fuzz, do a little research. Because like some of this stuff, I'm not even saying you need to be necessarily a believer of the Bible or Christian or anything. But if some of these groups are using the Bible as their vehicle, then it's good to even know some of the stuff that the Bible is trying to say, so that you can, be like, wait a minute, that don't sound right what you're saying over there. Just like how I try to do with a lot of atheists when they're going against evangelicals or just, leftists in general. I try to show them scriptures in their proper understanding so that even when they hear that stuff, they can push back. I see a couple more friends in the building. Mariana, Baba says, that was a good intro. Yes, thank you. Mr. Street says, what's up, all my good people? Hope all the family is doing well. Oh, yeah. And by the way, I wanted to put out there so you guys will know. So anybody who comes in who will ask later on, you guys can fill them in the chat. Chris is in New York for a family affair. So, he is with us in spirit. We all know that Chris might hop into the chat at any moment. Much love to my brother out there, and hopefully he's having fun in NY. I know I would be, but and also to Jalen. Jalen is up there also in New York with him. I don't know. Let's see. Hey, Jesus.
I almost had is he getting orders from Jay-Z joke in there, but I go on that line.
Exactly. That's the truth. There's the truth. Chris is not here because he's buying more polo shirts.
Hey, those are nice shirts, man.
Yes.
Talk shit about his shirts, bro.
Yes, we are getting the sage out there to get rid of the negative energies, because we are definitely going to be talking about a lot of negative energies. I got, I'm telling you, if this was a gunfight, I'd be just so ready, because all the stuff, I just got clips and clips and clips loaded up of stuff that I want to share with everybody. Fuzz. I want to start off with something. I know I know for some of you guys are secular, so I'm not going to hit you guys over the head with too much scripture. But Fuzz, can you pull up the account of Eve and the serpent? Because some of the Bible sometimes is metaphorical. And so this is a metaphor that definitely alludes and sits with this situation here, which we're dealing with. So I want to bring this up. I want to do a quick, brief breakdown of this so it will make sense. Some of what's going on with some of these different movements I'm going to talk about. So let me know when you have it, sir.
I got it. I want to also include that there is going to be a metaphorical way to approach what you see and what is written. However, the difference between relying on other things that are outside of the Bible is a living book, and then it is able to explain itself. So I'm pretty sure most of the breakdown is going to involve answers that will rely on scripture itself to explain one area from another area.
All right, so whenever you're ready, sir.
3 from the top.
Yeah. Just get to straight to the Eve and the serpent.
Book of Genesis, chapter 3 and verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God had said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent...
Oh, no, sorry, keep on.
And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
You shall be as gods. Did you hear that? Because this is going to be important to remember this little phrase. This goes into some of what I call some of the what many would call the earliest sin according to the Bible, because this is when Eve is being tempted to a new doctrine. to follow something that is contrary to the instructions that they've already been given. And so this is when Eve starts to go astray. This is when she takes Adam astray. And it just goes with a little bit of trickery and guile. It's not saying that, and just because you don't die in that moment, people don't think that they're going to die. It's kind of like if you smoke, just picking on you a little bit, Shadow. You smoke a lot of cigarettes or a pipe, one day down the road, that can result in cancer and kill you. So that's what it means when it says that. So it can be something that can affect you down the road, even though you don't die right in the moment. So I wanted to say that, and then I wanted to share something with you all. This was given to me. Well, it was given to Fuzz. A friend of ours was making an argument, and he shared this website with me. And as I started going through this website, I was spellbinded at the information I was finding in there. So I don't know if Jack or Shadow have had the time to see this yet, or I'm not even remember if I've sent it to them yet, because I know I've definitely just overloaded Jack with a ton of shit. So I keep that in mind. And Jack can testify, I have sent him a lot of stuff. But here, let me bring this up and let you guys hear this this gentleman talk. Anybody in the audience or panel, is anybody familiar with Eric Butterworth?
No.
I know of Mrs. Butterworth, but
delicious.
I know of Butters Ballpark.
All right. So, anybody in the chat? Oh, let me switch that view. Oh, not that view. There we go. So Tina says no. Anybody else? Anybody in the audience at all heard of this man, Eric Butterworth? In fact, let me drop this down real quick so you guys can see the relevance of who this person is. Let me stop this. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I think I do need that. Let me come back to that one and just open another tab. Yes, but that way I can show you guys who this Eric Butterworth and why this person has any kind of relevance in this conversation, what they're saying. So pull this one video up. That way we can see the relevance of this. Oh shoot, I didn't put his whole name. Put his whole name in, that would help. Butterworth. What an interesting name. It just makes me think of pancakes.
I know, right?
Let's see. There we go. That's the clip I need. Let's see. Put it up here real quick, and let me open it up and show you all what I'm talking about. Share. Prop. I'm not. I don't have anything against anybody who's homosexual. I feel like take that up with the God of the universe. That's not me. I don't make any rules of anything. So
precept.
On what?
The law.
No. We're not gonna go there tonight.
Nah,
Because
right.
yeah, doesn't do. We'll leave it. We don't want to. I'm not gonna deal with props trolling tonight. We're just gonna ignore you. So you can have your own feelings. I'm not that worried about your feelings. But where is it at? Oh, wait a minute. Which one is it?
Come on,
I'm
bro.
losing my views. Yeah, I don't get why prop is. Dude, there's so many other things you could be doing than come in to harass
Let the
me.
extreme happen. Prop.
Yeah, there's so many other things you could be doing, dude. Are you really that bored? All right, so check this out.
I'm Christian too, and I got that a long time ago. I mentioned this also in this book called Discover the Power Within You by Eric Butterworth. where he talks about the Christ consciousness. And up until then, I was like you, Marquis. I thought Jesus came, died on the cross, that Jesus' being here was about his death, when it really was about him coming to show us how to do it, how to be, to show us the Christ consciousness that he had, and that consciousness abides with all of us. Yes. That's what I got. Yes. That's what I got. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just want to show that real quick. The reason why he's a significant person, because he is, for one, not only a big-time author, but he is one of the spiritual advisors who is around Oprah Winfrey, one of the most powerful women in the world, one of the most influential women in the world to a lot of women. So that's the reason why I wanted to share who this gentleman is first and foremost. Now, let's get into the first part of this little clip of some of the things that he says, and then we can go from there. So let me put this on the screen for you all. Yes, Mariana, I'm no fan of Oprah. And the more and more I learn about Oprah, the more I dislike Oprah. Oprah is a reptile. I don't know.
This planet.
I felt like she was going to do a soul giveaway. Like, look under your chair. There's your soul.
I see Atras in the
formaldehyde face.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Hold on. Before I got into that, I noticed I had some friends over in the other, hopped into the Rock Fin. I see AM, Wake Up. And if you guys didn't catch that episode, they were here last week. It was a lot of fun. Big shout out to Boston Steve, best morning show in the world.
Steve.
And then I see Denver is over there also. What's up, Denver? Glad to see you. It says Canadian Winnipeg, Eric Butterworth, the best-selling author of 16 books and prominent leader in the Unity and New Thought movements, rose to popularity with his inspiring message of personal renewal and positive prayer. Clap it up. Couldn't have broke it down better myself. Good job, Denver. But this is from their website of, what is it? What was it called again? Unity, what is it, like Unity Truth, something like that. Let me click on it and I'll be able to tell you. It is called Truth Unity Net, a Fillmore Fellowship of Metaphysical Christians. And many of you out there will be like, what the hell is a metaphysical Christian? Well, a big part of the metaphysical Christian, many of them, their doctrine is about Christ consciousness. Now, there's many different ways which this is talked about, this Christ consciousness thing and movement. But for those of us who, for many who are not in the know about this kind of thing, this is part of the New Age movement, New Age religion, New Age spirituality, whatever you'd say here. So let me scroll back down, and then play just a little bit of this, and we'll stop at different points. But one of the big persons who's part of this Christ consciousness movement is a man by the name of Emmett Fox. So Eric is going to lay out some of the different people and the histories and stages of their movement spoken from his own lips. So here we go.
As we have said, the secondary title of this series could well be There's Nothing New in New Thought. We're concerned basically with tracing the evolution of New Thought ideas, and perhaps secondarily we see that it also gives us an insight into the sort of the history of the New Thought movement. And we've considered roots in philosophy, roots in psychology, considered the transcendentalism of Kant as perhaps most succinctly articulated by Emerson. We've considered the New England mesmerist Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, considered Mary Baker Eddy, Thomas T. Troward, the Fillmores and Unity. Last week we considered Emmett Fox and Ernest Holmes and religious science. Today we're going to deal with the occult teachings and teachers. Now, we've indicated several main sources of the influence out of which this New Thought concept has come into expression in our day. Certainly, we stress the influence of Quimby's revolution in mental science, also the transcendentalism of Emerson as being two major thrusts that have sort of come to focus in the modern day New Thought ideas. There were other influences, some of which were reflected in the amazing concepts of Emerson, and certainly in the teachings of some of the early New Thought teachers. But we're going to try to bulk some of these together under the heading of the occult. Now, this is a word that has many meanings, and I suppose, in a sense, our consideration tonight is a case of the fool that rushes in where the angels fear to tread. Because this covers a lot of bases, and I'm sure there's a lot of emotion involved in some of the things that we'll consider.
All right, so let's stop it there. Panel, I pass it out. What's some of your thoughts on what I played there for you?
So, I mean, anytime someone claims to be a religious authority, right? Anytime that someone says it's my interpretation of these true things, then then authority has entered the room. And once authority takes over that movement of any sort, then it becomes a technocratic hellscape, right? Because it's that learned institution, right? I'm borrowing from Bakunin, right? This on what is authority, right? Like you'll have a scientific institution that has a dictatorship of our scientific interpretation of all things metaphysical and spiritual, right? Which is a very serious danger. If it's no different, it's kind of cycled throughout the centuries, right? Like, what is the world religions and all these fake institutions that claim to have absolute power over absolution. That is a dangerous proposition, because if you control absolution, then you can control anyone's thought process, and anything is admissible at that point. Anything is admissible with the power of God, right? That you've consumed, right? The power of whatever entity that you are calling upon with these different symbols that you use.
Yeah, and it's almost like deferred spirituality, right? Like someone doesn't, if they don't have a base for their own, then they'll hear someone like one of the more Alice Balians, Blavatsky, those type of people. They like to use authority, appeal to authority, which is, if you listen to what was said, almost all that is, this guy wrote this and this is from this work, and it just shows you that if you extract something from its original source, or if you extract something from what its actual meaning was, you can then, again, authority, authoring. So when you're authority, you're authoring what's going on, right? So that's literally what that guy's doing. What a lot of these New Age movements do is they try to author what could actually give people some impact in various different faiths and beliefs. And they're like reductionists, and also it's an aspect of denying yourself the ability for not just self-thought, but to the chance to discover this on your own, because now you're taking someone else's word for something, right? So that was fascinating.
Well, that's why I had some different issues with it. Fuzz, I'll let you get in there before I respond.
So there is, like, jumping back on both what Shadow and Jack are saying, when it comes to some higher person, someone in a position of authority getting to dictate what exactly is the basis of the religion, this is how you follow it. And like, as Shadow had mentioned, when authority enters the room, this is a snippet from what little I was able to read from Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma.
I'm reading that right now.
Essentially the doctrines and the philosophy of Freemasonry, from the first degree all the way to the 32nd degree. For the life of me, I couldn't finish the couple chapters that Marcus ask me. But one thing I did come across was this following quote from the first chapter.
Mm-hmm.
The two great motors are truth and love. When all these forces are combined and guided by the intellect and regulated by the rule of right and justice, and of combined and systematic movement and efforts, the great revolution prepared for by the ages will begin to march.
And wow, that's a powerful part that you got there out of there. Because I'm telling you, anybody who out there who's read Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, please let me know who's read all the way through it. I'm trying. It is tough because it says so much and so little at the same time. And
Such an arrogant book.
It's very contradicting too. It's so many things that they say that are contradicting, like how the opinion of this, but you need to be a person of faith, but your faith, it throws a lot of contradictions in at the same time. So I don't fault you, Fuzz, for having some trouble with it. I'm having trouble myself.
Well, and a lot of that is 100% intentional. And then so there is a Masonic tie, Foster Bailey, that was the
you're getting
Alice.
So ahead of me.
Yeah, sorry.
But go ahead.
Yeah,
It's all right. But it's all right. You always do that because you know where I'm going.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it's meant that way on purpose, is because if you can't explain something that has been written, it's kind of like a form of I see it as like a form of, I wouldn't call it ceremony as like I would use the word, but it's like a form of their ritual, right? Of the confusion, of spreading the confusion. So it's not just that they're using inversions of all these different beliefs, like Tibetan Buddhism, Zen, elements of all this other stuff, and they use the language, but they invert it so thoroughly that to even cover it, you've got to unvert the inversions and then really kind of suss out what they're trying to get at. And a lot of it is exactly what you just mentioned. It's very, there's not a lot of there, it's very much, it's almost like a spell. Is like when I read some of these works, is I see it as almost a spell, only that when I'm reading it, I'm not under the influence of it because I know myself, right? And that's a process that takes a long time. But for someone who may not, they'll read that and go, oh, this is the answer to everything. And they'll that confirmation bias towards wanting to be correct will not let them see what's actually going on those pages. But yeah, it's just, they don't really hide this stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what makes it actually the most dangerous, is that these people actually believe that they are the enlightened ones, right? They have used the powers of nature and bended it to their wills, right? Like they've and like you can see this appeal, the appeal to not assuming all power in like different literature, right? It becomes an archetypal story. So you have in the Lord of the Rings, right? Like you can't use the ring of power because then it's going to just destroy everything and you're going to turn evil, right? So like these people have decided to use the ring of power, right? Like they have assumed different roles in the government of the world, right? Like a lot of UN stuff. And
where Bailey's books are housed, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, like, and what really caught my eye to it is because right around the time of Blavatsky here in the US is right when the currency was centralized, right? It wasn't the Fed at first. It was the United States Treasury at first like 1868, right? And right around that same time is when this perversion of spiritual power started, right? It was, and also think like in its historical perspective that this is around the time when people are rioting against the religions in Europe, right? Like
and the institutions that have failed.
Yes. So like all the churches were on a serious decline as far as their authority was concerned, right? So in their mind, they had to transfer the new authority, right? Where are we where are we going to go? First off, and they chose the United States. And second off, they perverted the liberation from theology into this science-based theosophy, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's
It's
not
very
to say
axiomatic,
powers
too.
were,
Yeah.
were like malevolent at first, right? Like, that is the biggest pitfall of human history, is that people are trying to do things for a very good reason, right? Like, they've convinced themselves that no matter what I do, it's okay because I'm at this goal projected in the future, right? Like the ends will justify the means, right?
Yep.
So that power corrupts and perverts every well-meaning thought, and then gives you a God complex and the Messiah complex, right?
Yeah, and don't forget that you had another step even before those people who went all the way to that side. You had the rise of, and trust me, I am not a Catholic. I believe that they had a poor understanding of the Bible, the book, in the first place. But what happened is more worse understandings branched out from Lutheranism and the Protestant Church and Calvinism, and that's what spawned all these different, cousins of Catholicism at the same time when theosophy and those things were coming on. And then you had people who were solely about science, and they went on the tip of science is it, and we have to disprove faith, religion, any of that.
Yeah, like, well, you have to disprove all opposing ideals, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to, and that's like where the cultural and spiritual and religious imperialism was, like, it had finally reached its conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, there was no way for the Catholic Church and the Eastern Imperial Church and all these different institutions to expand into new territories and take their cut, right? Like, it was the end of an era. So they had to create a new modicum of control.
Yep.
And they figured that they would centralize everything around at that time to make it seem like they were multicultural, right? Like, that's what one of the tenets of this theosophy is, but it's like multicultural under your fucking terms.
Mm-hmm.
And you're dealing with an imperial ideology, right?
And you hit on something huge, Shadow, is that you remember just earlier we were just literally going over if anyone hadn't heard, go listen to Immortal Technique, Sign of the Time. An amazing line. I'll just read parts of this, because they can only conquer you after they murdered your mind. So rise up, motherfucker, like a sign of the times. I feel my body wrecking, but my spirit is fine, ready to go to war with the devils at the drop of a dime and fight with my rebel army until the stars are aligned. So he's getting at that, like, exactly what you were just saying. It's a murdering of your logical thinking, of your actual spirituality, your self-reliance, anything that could make you self-reliant. And he's touching on that. It's a very colonizing type viewpoint these different ideologies, especially theosophy, espouses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you guys made a lot of good points, and I want to hear more. I want to hear what your thoughts on more of this, because we know this stuff, but the fact that there's this clip of somebody who is like a pillar in that community, literally laying out and basically admitting to what we all say it is. I don't know. I was just like blown away when I was hearing it. So I'm gonna put up a little bit more of that so you guys can hear this, because he doesn't hide the ball at all. I mean, not at all. Let's see.
Just real quick, Marcus, you hit on something.
Oh, sorry. So go on.
The
ahead,
reason,
Jack.
you hit on something key, and that's that they're not hiding the ball here at all. And I think the reason behind that is because they have to get your consent.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the appeal to authority is getting to the yes, as one of my coworkers put it. Right, like and he explained it to me in terms of his son, and it says when his son wants something, he starts with the whole thing, right? This big thing. And if he tells him no, then he waits a little bit, and then he goes to ask him for something smaller. And if he still says no, then he'll wait a little bit longer, and he'll ask for something a little smaller. And then when he finally says yes, he asks for something a little bigger, and then a little bigger, until he finally gets what he wants, right? It's getting to the yes. That's what the appeal to authority is, right?
Well said. And Denver over here says the predestination Calvinist creed of one considers themselves already saved and thus are telling themselves this, and they betray all around them, which I've always thought that was funny too about Calvinists, because according to modern Christianity, you're being saved from your sins. But that's not really, the Bible doesn't say you're being saved from your sins. It tells you to stop sinning so you can be saved. That's the reason why I always found that was kind of interesting, how that's the interpretation, which people who say, I'm saved, use. I'm saved from my sins. Okay, and that's one of the early twisting. It's just, and we'll go into a little bit more, but you guys got to hear this. It says, this one's titled, Eric Defines the Occult and Occultism. And then let me just give you a couple. I won't give you, because I know it's small, so you guys can't see what these are titled. But a lot of the stuff which Jack and Shadow have already been talking about are literally the titles of what he's going to talk about. But here we go.
The word occult in a dictionary meaning would indicate hidden from sight, obscure, beyond the scope of understanding, or mysterious. Now, the occultists, if we can generalize the term, believe that there are hidden teachings that have always been kept from the masses. And therefore, there are all sorts of secret orders and initiation rites and so forth as we are progressively indoctrinated in these higher teachings. Occultism, then, is that which deals with the study of these teachings. And it insists that there are esoteric teachers in the form of masters and adepts that are available to teach us. And the occultists generally feel that there are intelligences in the universe that are as superior to man as man is superior to the black beetle. Now, these masters and adepts are the custodians of occult sciences, and we must make contact with them for instruction. And so almost invariably, the occult teachings deal with some kind of psychic power or clairvoyance or a kind of mediumship of one sort or another through which we contact these higher beings. Now, I might say at this time that we're going to break the subject down to separate the one field of spiritualism, even though in a sense it would come under the heading of an occult teaching, basically because next week we're going to deal more with the paranormal and the psychic and so forth, and it seems fitting that we deal with spiritualism in that context. Now, the occultists usually work out some kind of a cosmology or a complete esoteric system of the universe. Usually it's a very, very complicated, graded hierarchy with various levels of initiations. Now, let me say before I go any further that though I have found much that is helpful and interesting in certain occult teachers, I must say that the emphasis on the mystery and the masters leaves me less than warm, or I should say leaves me cold. This is in no way to deal derogatorily with the various occult teachings. It's simply to indicate my particular state of consciousness, which may be less than high enough to grasp these higher bodies. I can say that through my years of truth-seeking, which cover a pretty broad span of years, and I don't want to act like a graybeard, but I have been exposed to many of the teachings and have given some time and thought and given a little research to most of them or all of them that we're going to deal with tonight. And so therefore I'm not simply speaking offhandedly and something that I don't know very much about, but I've come to the conclusion that for myself, that since I am a creative expression of the one mind, that I can have what Emerson refers to as a first-hand and immediate experience with God. I believe that I have a master, And to me, the master is the Christ of my own being, which is simply the divine dimension of my own nature. And that I am forever in the presence of this master of my own being that is constantly seeking to reveal itself to me and through me as the next step in my unfoldment. I'm also well aware of the fact that many of the students who in one time or another have listened to my exposés have had other personal feelings about life, and I have had many people through the years tell me that they insist that they see a little man standing next to me, a man that almost invariably wears a goatee, and he is my personal master, according to some. And I don't know, this may be true. I feel that if it is true, I waste an awful lot of time putting a lot of effort in myself. I should just let him take over. But again, this is just to speak lightheartedly about my own personal.
So I figured
Does
I
he know
went
that's
for a
the
little
devil?
bit. I went for a little bit so I can give you guys a whole lot. And I just want to put this out there and say this. First off, I'm not in the school of thought that everybody needs to believe what I believe. I'm not in the school of thought that if somebody believes this over there, then they have the right to believe their beliefs. But it's when you go and try to take someone else's beliefs and tell them that, no, that's not what that says. It actually really means this. And no, this belief is all the same as that. And you start trying to like mush it all into one thing and then tell the people who believe this one thing that, no, you actually believe the same as these people when you know that the beliefs contradict. So I wanted to say that first before I let Fuzz, I know he has something.
Yeah, I have 3.
And hold on one second. I want to say a shout out to Signs. I see Signs and Kelly in the building now. So much love to y'all. And Yona is in the building.
Yeah, so I mean, like, this dude is. So I have had some experiences with some substances before. I have been around the divine, as far as I'm concerned. Few
Hey,
times.
Steven.
What's up, Senor Torres? But I mean, what he's talking about is like things that are totally possible, right? Like these are things that when you awaken certain parts of your mind and your spirit simultaneously, then certain doors are opened, right? Like a certain part of a veil may be lifted and you might be able to see beyond things as you see them in the waking world, right?
100%.
So what he's doing there is saying, I have found this truth, but his intentions are he wants to be one of the layers of the masters of and adepts, and he wants to turn from the taught to the teacher. He wants to assume this role of power because he has the enlightened way, and only he can be the dictator of it, right? Like,
it sounds a little culty.
Thou sayest.
You get touched by power, and it's like, and it's an intoxicant, right? It feeds on people.
No.
Like,
hey, and believe it or
oh
not.
My God, that's good.
Trying to say some serious shit here, and you're like,
Uncle Warren, you're a savage for that. Oh man! And believe it or not, if you dig enough, which I have saw, Anton LaVey kind of does start that. There's, they talk about those 6 degrees of separation or 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. If you do a little bit with this theosophy, it doesn't take long before you get to the Anton LaVeys and the Aleister Crowleys. Just saying.
Oh, and see, like, those are just men, right? Like, it's
Oh, and I saw somebody said hey to me. Hello, Isabella. Oh, wait a minute. This is Isabella, good friend of mine. Hey, how you doing? Glad to see you live. So glad to see you here. Welcome. And any questions you have, make sure to ask, and we will do our best to try to answer. But yeah, sorry for interrupting. Whatever you guys were saying.
Yeah, it's these people have found a taste of spiritual experience, right? And they've worked on gaining more and more, and they feel as though that is endowed them. They've been anointed, right? Like it goes through the ages of these people that get in contact with something outside of themselves, and they become addicted to the power that it's given them, right? Like these are
you can hear it
stories
when he was talking.
Yeah. And like there's stories of the archetype, right? But there's also factual historical accounts, right? Like, and some things walk a very fine line between myth and historical fact, right? Like people like Alexander and like the demigod and all that stuff, right? The authority that it gave him to be known as a demigod that could not be defeated, right? Like it drove him mad. Like it turns these people, like, because they believe that everyone else is inferior to them, and therefore, since I am chosen, I am superior. I have assumed the reins of I've become the arbiter of the path forward, and there's only one destination, and only I know what the destination is. So you have to get little snippets of this truth from me, right? Like think
about that though. You just hit on something.
Yeah,
dude. Like think about it. They get their authority for quote unquote truth comes from their worship of the deceiver. It's a paradox.
Yeah.
Well, I've always said that in every lie, there's always some truth. So that's why that's how it's convincing.
As you read on.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. As you read on through Morals and Dogma, you're going to find a lot of accurate statements centered around God, and yet within the 90% of what they talk about being considered as true, and it would line up with some things in the Bible, there is always the 10% that is a lie.
Right. Like that's what makes the best lies, right? So if you can,
you got to put a little truth in there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like, but I mean, you put a whole lot of lies out, but you put a few truths in the lies, and people weave the web of the event in their own head, right? Like they're so focused on this confirmation bias, right? Like that there's only things that they can understand are happening, right? Like it's an extreme materialism that people have lost all faith in religious institutions, and they get to now assume that empty void that has been created by the past, I don't know, 110, 120 years of science-based spiritual centers. Like, I think that the culture is ripe for a new savior. Once these United Nations planted people actually install their agenda, it's going to be under the grounds of, we are creating a new world that's going to be better for you, you simple fucking pleb, right? Like it's recreating a whole feudalism based upon science.
That and it's important to keep in mind too that these are just agendas, meaning that like whatever world that they've conjured up for control and domination and to pull us from our spirituality, our faith, our beliefs or whatever, everything that they've done to do that still requires consent on our part, which kind of speaks to what we're talking about earlier, is that someone like that who's willing to like, oh, listen to the description he gave, like he's not hiding anything. He's literally pointing to in the most basic way that he's listening to a devil that people can see on his shoulder. It's like you start with that and you start seeing that like a lot of this is it's just nuts. It really is.
It also does when you get into theosophy, it also does advocate for a lot of psychedelics. And so the use of psychedelics can produce some of these effects, just saying.
Well, yes, but also it's not that you're just high and these things aren't happening, right?
Precisely.
No, well, I'm saying that sometimes it's high, sometimes you're unlocking and checking into some different, dimensions, and sometimes you could be possibly hacking into a system where, a level of communication which you weren't necessarily supposed to. Like the Most High does communicate and will take his prophets into, for lack of better words, the astral plane to give messages and to show different things and prophecies and all that. But when you start trying to hack into it on your own, you leave yourself open to all the things which are in the fourth dimension. So that means right hand angels and left hand angels.
Yeah, you can run into some very malevolent beings.
And I see
very benevolent beings, right?
And big shout out to Cy Lawson up there in NY. Much love to you, brother.
Polo. We were just talking about how Jay-Z is part of it.
I mean, we know you're going to New York to pledge fealty, but come on, man.
Yeah, but all kidding aside, it's also because there's certain prophecies that we know exist. If they can work a series of events backwards from that conclusion, then they can actually force these things to happen by pushing certain dominoes certain ways, right? Like, because you can plan out the moves afterwards. It's cryptic what I'm saying, right? Like it might sound like I'm not.
No, it's just the Hegelian dialectic.
They get to create the end the prophecy, right? They get to create it. If it says somewhere in a religious text that the world is going to burn because of this, right? Then you can force history into that motion, right? By pulling certain strings in certain places, right?
Or that, or that it may be happening, but it's it goes back to authority and authoring. It's who's authoring that. You know what I'm saying? Like the prophecies can happen and occur naturally, right? But who's steering what it actually ends up being? Does it become an entrainment to a worship of a deceiver type entity?
It's because of the power gained, because every time that you land correctly on something, then the power increases, right? Because then you get to be the dictator of the philosophy. You get to be the dictator of what was prophesied and how to interpret what was prophesied, right? Like, so when you have people that are fucking around with the occult and using like magic symbols, right? What I was talking about earlier with DNA memory, right? If you have an intergenerational trauma, then you have an intergenerational memory, right? It's very important to like understand that fact. And if you have an intergenerational memory, then they can use these symbols and draw upon these symbols that you've been seeing as your DNA has been attached to, right? Like it's
almost like it recognizes it.
Yeah.
Got a quick message here for Cy Law from AM Wake Up. It says just here to remind everyone that Jay-Z ain't shit.
I'm yeah, he's all fucking Illuminati'd up, him and Beyonce. But I mean, these people are taking advantage of these prophecies, right? If they exist set in stone, then you can actually force those prophecies to come into existence, especially if you have any type of understanding from a being that's beyond the fourth dimension, right? We're in the third dimension. We haven't transcended time, right? The fourth dimension is time. So if you're in the astral plane, which I can try to explain my best, right? Like if you're in the
good luck.
If you're in the Akashic plane, you can talk to people from the past and from the future because it has transcended the fourth dimension. You can talk.
And it kind of goes into matter is neither created nor destroyed, and the second law of thermodynamics, essentially.
Yeah, and you can also get in contact with things that are very sentient, like not just human beings that are in the Akashic plane as you are. You're in contact with other beings that are used. That's where they hang out, right? Like that's where they exist, and you can actually do certain things and talk to certain beings. And you can use that for good, and you can use that for very, very bad.
And it's about discernment.
If anyone else believes it, if you believe it, and you keep getting these affirmations, then it exists. Like,
all right,
100%.
Just responding to because like some of these questions, like I'm seeing in there, it's not that I don't want to answer the questions, it's just that it'll go into a long, drawn-out lesson explaining it, and I'm trying to stay on topic because I got a lot of stuff here, and I don't want to get off topic because there's so much meat in this conversation. I mean, this whole thing is not very long, but it's so much stuff. I don't know what that is because as far as I know, AM Wake Up is not even on YouTube, so.
I think it actually. I think he has an account that he posts.
Oh, really?
Like links to Rockfin, I want to say.
I don't know. Since I've been dealing with somebody who's trolling so bad, it's really hard to even. It's really even hard to know sometimes if I'm talking to somebody who's new tuning in or if I'm just talking to somebody who's trolling me. So I want to play a little bit more of this clip. Get back into so you guys can hear more, because I'm pretty sure once it gets to a couple more of these parts, I'm pretty sure your ears are really gonna perk up pretty soon, especially you, Jack. So let's get to this next one here.
But I might add here, as long as we're thinking a little bit in terms of the occult.
Oh yeah, and let me know if you need me to stop it because you want to hop in, because you just might. This is the lecture 172. So this is, if you guys wanted to look at this part, this starts about, the first part I showed was 172, summary of previous talks. But now we're down to 173, and I'll let you hear what he talks about there. It starts getting into the meat of things from 173 to about 173 to 179. He lays out a lot of information here that we all need to listen to.
And it is an extremely interesting field of study if one can get into it without losing his way. That we might add to our original bibliography one name that probably stands out as the most important chronicler of the occult, and that would be Manly P. Hall. Many of you, I'm sure, are aware of Manly Hall and of his work. He's a brilliant scholar and teacher, writer, mystic in his own right, and one whom I sincerely believe to be one of the great minds of our modern age. He has established the Philosophical Research Society in Los Angeles. I hesitate to even recommend a book of Manly Hall because he has so many, and all the way from some things that are very down to earth and practical to some things that are very cosmological and abstruse. But if you're interested, the best way would be to contact directly the Philosophical Research Society in Los Angeles and get a prospectus. But I see him as probably the outstanding chronicler of occult sciences and teachings. Now, there are many ways to deal with occultism because its threads can be found in the cultures of East and West, and it certainly is not in my consciousness to be able to determine where the ideas of occultism or where occultism per se began or where it leaves off. But since the metaphysical movement that we're dealing with has become primarily a development in America, we're going to limit our scope to those occultists who I feel have had an influence on American teachers and teachings. So first of all, we have to start somewhere. Let's take a look at Emanuel Swedenborg. Swedenborg was born in Sweden in 1688. He was a professor of science turned philosopher, later theologian, a brilliant man on the quest for truth, seeking for the mystery of life. He concluded that he could only know God through intuitive knowledge. Now, this was a concept that was sort of the central feature of the transcendentalism of Kant. And it certainly is easy to assume that Kant was strongly influenced in this sense by Swedenborg. The whole religion has grown up out of the influence of Swedenborg, the Swedenborgians, and they have some very interesting modern-day churches and some interesting theological concepts. Whether or not Swedenborg envisioned establishing a church, I don't know. It is rather doubtful. That's the thing that happens to those who seek for the truth. Quite often there is an attempt on the part of the followers to codify, to crystallize, the 5 M's again, the man, the message, the movement, the machine, and the monument, the same thing. And certainly that happened to Jesus. It's doubtful if he ever intended to establish a church, though a lot of Christian leaders would take me to task for that. But anyway, this happened to Swedenborg. He developed a very complex cosmology. Now, I might warn you, somebody told me just the other day that they'd read about Swedenborg, and it sounded so interesting that he'd plunged into reading some things, and he said it was the most confusing thing he'd ever read, and he couldn't figure out whether there was something wrong with him. So I would say, by way of a kind of a warning, that Swedenborg is awfully difficult to read. And yet, Emerson once wrote to Carlyle saying that the Swedenborgians would contribute more than any of the other sects to the new faith which must arise out of all. Perhaps Emerson foresaw the development of this particular influence on New Thought in America, in which Swedenborg has had an influence, directly and in some cases quite often indirectly. Now, this is not to say that the works of Swedenborg bear very much resemblance to the...
Let's skip down.
So out of the hodgepodge of occultists in Europe in the 18th and 19th century, as a starting point in considering at least some sort of a thread, we want to look at theosophy as founded by Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, who was born in Russia in 1831. As a child, Madame Blavatsky revealed psychic powers. According to her own story, she had superhuman and subhuman playmates as a child. As she grew older, the theosophists claim at least that her psychic powers increased. She developed what is called astral clairvoyance. She could...
All right, I'll stop it right there. I don't know how many people knew that about Blavatsky, that that she had, what was it, whatever different types of playmates he called it,
subhuman.
Of a child, subhuman or whatever. Yeah, whatever that.
She was from Yekaterina, which is in the Ukraine.
And just so you know, I mean, I think you guys get the gist of that, and I won't bore you with too much more of it, but I'll give you some of the titles and some of the rest, which he has. 3-stage development of Blavatsky, the cosmology of theosophy teachings on thought, reincarnation, the choice to accept nirvana and become a master, order in the star of the East, and Jindu Krishnamurti. And then it goes into Rudolf Steiner, Max Heindel, Alice Bailey, and then the great invocation from the Arcane School. And so as you keep going down and down and down, it starts getting into how theosophy is tied with yoga and more things, and about meditation and astral planing and all these things like that.
What's nuts on that, Marcus, beyond all of it, is the fact that you can't accept nirvana. It's a state. So like the fact that they even think that it's something that's an acceptable thing, that's an offer right there for you to not understand what nirvana is. It's
And
nuts.
am I allowed to say what society that these people all belong to?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so every single one of these people that we're talking about is in the Freemason Society, right?
Yes.
Like Alice Bailey is, Blavatsky was, Teddy Roosevelt was also in the Freemasons.
Yes.
And under Teddy Roosevelt, the U.S. empire in earnest began, right? Like it had always been a continental empire, but it had never really sailed ships across the Pacific Ocean to take over territories yet, right? Like, so around the same time as Blavatsky comes around, right? She's here in the United States right around the time where the Knights of Labor, which uses another magical symbol, was organizing certain economic rights for working people, right? So the Knights of Labor was trying their best to institute like a co-op economy. And she came around the United States around that time, and rather than getting a co-op economy, we had a bunch of false flag operations that happened, like the Haymarket affair in 1860 or 1875, I want to say it was. And the Knights of Labor was over. But rather than have private monies printing their own currency anymore, as a result of 1960 or 1888, sorry, the U.S. Treasury started to print money rather than any private corporations. In 1868, also you had the I just had a brain fart.
I guess if you can't remember, I can hop in for a moment.
And the antitrust laws were written specifically to allow monopoly corporations to take over the market under the banner of liberty, and the financial institutions would own them all, right?
Yes.
So that's when this all starts to happen, right at the fall of the British pound sterling being the world reserve currency, right? Like, these are all things that have economic and ideological and national and international politics affairs. Like, as these things start to happen, like when someone's looking to control the money supply.
Well, Shadow, can I say something? Hop in real quick. Just hold that thought. Wallace West has, now they're talking about some cult stuff. The reason why we're talking about cult stuff is if you don't understand what the people who are controlling this system believe in and what motivates them, then when you're talking about politics, what are you even talking about? You don't know what's going on because you don't know who's controlling the strings. You don't know what motivates them. I'm not saying you
and
need
Marcus,
to believe in any
you're
of this
arguing in
stuff.
their terms. Marcus, you just hit on it. You're talking in their terms too.
You have to understand what these people are, what their motivations are, what their end games, and all of this is politics. Because what's not understood here, where this connection comes in. Now, I might have went a little bit long, kind of laying this out and showing this ties, but Shadow is kind of getting into most of these people, most of your presidents, most of your politicians, most of your federal banking institutions. This is the shit they believe in.
Yeah.
So there, hopefully it clicked for you there. This is what they believe in. So, sorry, go ahead, let you hop back in.
Going all the way back to George Washington, right?
Yes.
And you can see that like the theosophy begins in just enough time for the colonies to start revolting against the British crown, right? So I mean,
it's almost like this reset happens every years.
Even before then, because you got to remember the Jacobin revolts were motivated by the same damn people. The Bolsheviks revolts were motivated by the same damn people. All of these political events which you all just look at as, well, they're fighting kings and oppression. No, there is something going on behind the scenes that motivates all of this stuff. There's money that goes into making all of these things happen. And you're not putting up all of this money to make these things happen and blood, sweat, tears, and coin if you don't have a belief in something. And this is the belief these people have in, because they are trying to mold something and make something happen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, 100%.
Well, and you got to think that like a lot of these financial institutions, right? Like they didn't just appear out of nowhere, right? Like they've been around for a very, very fucking long time. I think going back as far as 1480, I want to say the world reserve currency was from Portugal at that time, right?
Yep.
Like there's been world reserve currencies for so fucking long that you can trace it all the way back to where the money magic actually birthed itself. It's Babylonian money and magic, man. Like,
yes,
I was just
exactly.
Worship a golden calf, right?
And you remember the original debt? Didn't the original debt come from where they would have debt jubilees for farmers? They would have a first tallying system on debt was where the farmers, if they couldn't have a yield, they could do something in a payback or go like essentially do servitude.
Indentured
like it's
servitude.
Insane. Like that bondage.
That's
system
where
was,
the whole Irish indentured servitude stuff even comes from.
Thank you, because I've always had kind of wondered about that, but that makes perfect sense now. Because I remember reading about that, and I was like, that's the origins of debt slavery. It's got to be.
Yeah,
and they did it to the Asian fucking population at that exact same time too, right?
With the rice fields,
Immigration Act of like 1905 and 18...
that's the reason why in a lot of those old cowboy movies, if you ever notice, most of the people who work in the rail yards in the West are normally Asian.
Well, and a lot of that also has to do with the fact that back then the British pound sterling was still the world reserve currency, right? And they were mostly banks were basically buying human beings in China and then shipping them off to America and using them as an investment, right? Because they're indentured servitudes, plus they have to pay for their fare, plus they have to blah 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 blah, right? Like just tacking on all the fees, and they were enslaving people to these indentured servitude things at that time, and
because I want to throw in like the relevance to like that history now. We're going somewhere with this. Just bear with us. That's all I'm saying. So go ahead, Charlie.
Like the immigration bills that were passing at that time, because I was looking at the historical context. I'm just this weird guy that wants to know exactly what the fuck is happening in the world at that point, and especially if it's like laser focused on the United States, right? Because like that's my milieu. That's where I'm supposed to be fighting things, right? So I'm wondering, right? What is all the things that are in these bills? The other day, I came across in 1918 there was the immigration bill, an immigration bill passed in 1918, and part of it was the Anarchist Exclusion Act. It was a definition of anyone that could possibly be a threat, right? And it wasn't just anarchists, though. It was anyone who had any type of free thought, anyone who disagreed with the organization of the central and federal government and currency and everything else. And like, that's how they defined anarchist back then, right? And if you're disseminating any published literature and blah, 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 you can be deported, right? That's why a lot of American revolutionaries in 1918 were deported to Russia. And if they were deported to their home country where they didn't have a friendly system to them, they would just ship them to Russia. So all the revolutionaries from all the world got stacked there right around the time that the Fed took over money printing and started to move in on Great Britain's territory in the East, right? Like the islands. So
Are you suggesting that the establishment of the first I wouldn't say the first centralized banking, but the first overtly centralized banking system, and then the kicking off and result in 2 world wars, those are connected?
I see you.
That's all part of Babylonian.
My beard is blown.
money magic, man.
You're blowing my
ICU,
beard.
I was gonna respond this to ICU. Franco is a friend of mine, and I'm not using this to try to smear Franco. We literally have been talking about this stuff for how long, Jack? When we start talking about back
Oh, yeah,
to
we were wanting to do a
David
show
Icke
daily.
exposed. So this is
Oh no. I am not in any way.
Yeah,
No,
this ain't
no, I'm not.
nothing-
I'm not. I don't have anything negative to say about Franco.
Yeah,
I'm
so
providing my
this is
interpretation of
talking about
everything
the
in the
elites and what we see going on. This ain't
Right.
This is something that has been in the works for a while now. If somebody happens to believe some of these things, I don't. At one point in time, I literally campaigned for Barack Obama. Can we be wrong about stuff? Yes, we can. So we can't also be so sensitive if we've been hustled or bamboozled on something.
Like,
sometimes we have to admit, hey, maybe I was wrong on that, and get out of that, and don't just hold down to something just because we, it's not got to drop the pride on some of this stuff.
I'm coming at it from an entirely different angle. I'm just I am not in any way rebuking Franco. There are these powers that do exist, and you can reach out and grab those powers, but be aware who you're signing the contract with in that astral plane.
Yeah, I mean, when you look into any
and
of
there are
any,
ways
any of the Christ consciousness,
there's nothing wrong with that. Not at all, right?
The Christ
I'm not even
consciousness
speaking
stuff.
Franco, I'm adding that there are these powers that exist, and some people use them for light, and you can use them for light, but most of the time that they're used for dark, because we're so fucking mind controlled, and we've been mind controlled by television and radio and everything else. We can't, I'm trying to read.
Well, no, Shadow. They say that you're not. It's me that's doing that. I'm trying to explain that I see a tie to some of this stuff. This whether Franco believed this stuff or not. This is not about Franco. This is about the fact of this is a belief system that goes back for centuries, all the way back to Babylonian beliefs, and this has been propagated through many different sources.
Yeah.
I'm literally showing you right here that this is what Blavatsky believes. This is literally Alice Bailey. These are the people who created this whole entire doctrine. They literally started a trust called the Lucifer Trust, which eventually became the Lucius Trust, which that same trust literally works with the World Economic Forum and Davos. This ain't about smearing anybody. This is about putting out the actual information. And so I'm sorry if however it comes across to you, but the information is what the information is. Should we not tell people about the dangers of this stuff because it could possibly hurt somebody's feelings?
Well, and here's the thing, though, guys. It's not
I'm not trying to hurt nobody's feelings. I'm just saying that, I'm not even I'm not saying that these powers are wrong or they don't exist, right? These powers are there for human beings to reach out and grab with a certain level of work in progress, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, right?
And it's about
do things, discernment. Yes, and you can align where your energy is supposed to be, and you can awaken certain things, right? I just happen to believe that when certain people do it, they're doing it with all the wrong intentions. And when you're in the world of magic, everything is your intention, right? So if you want to become the world steering committee, right? That's what you guys see yourself as, when in the theosophy movement, right? But it even goes beyond the theosophy movement, right? Because it used to be in the Catholic Church for centuries, right? That the Catholic Church issued currency just as much as any nation state did, right? They were the controllers and changers of money and many of their different
and it goes to indulgences too,
right? They use the institutions of religion all the time.
That's a good example, because you take the ancient Christians, right, who were persecuted beyond belief,
right,
and you look at the fact that the reason why is more likely because they were essentially attuned to what they were, the followings, and you can use anything in this place, but I think more or less, because I really want people to understand this point, is that it's being able to discern what's going on with the New Age terminology, because you'll hear Shadow and I talk, and I mean, we're literally just talking about the astral plane because that's our understanding of this stuff, right?
Yes.
But what we're getting at is that people like Alice Bailey purposely come in to try to divide people and make people unsure of their own beliefs, essentially. And essentially, they almost like flood the spiritual zone with just either they'll take half truths and spin them, and that's more what we're talking about, is the discernment to look at what these things are, which is offers. They're all offers to either symbols or anything like that. They're all offers, whether you take it or not, because they still need your consent. So it's more or less trying to pull apart. These are some of the ways that the quote, air quoting, the New Age, different New Age things are spun to confuse people that are going down those paths. Because I do think there's a ton of truth in looking past what we know, what we see. A lot of
Oh shoot! Did we lose Jack?
You dropped out there for a second, Jack.
Oh,
you were on to
you guys
something
are
so
hearing me?
Good. Okay, yeah, we can hear you.
It's the ghost.
Are you talking?
No. And Kelly says in here, Yona Weird, my dad was a Mason, and he brought my mom a LeBaron coincidence. Well, even if you're a Mason, it doesn't mean that you're involved in all the stuff and you know what's going on and all that. By literally just reading through Albert Pike's book, which Albert Pike was a 33-degree Mason and was the head of the Masons at the time when he was alive. Manly P. Hall, which is one of the biggest people who was he was a big influence on Theosophy. And he's considered one of their major chroniclers, which he's a major source which they look to. He was a 33-degree Mason also. A lot of these people who came up with this doctrine and have compiled beliefs from Hindu, Buddhism, Taoism, Zen, and mix all of these things into the Abrahamic faiths also. This is something which Masonic lodges do. You have to have a belief in some form of faith or so-called religion to even be a Mason. And they take that and they use that. And many people might be a Shriner, never have a clue about anything that they're actually doing. But when you start getting to the levels of like the CEO of companies and the people who are actually making the decisions, the ones who are moving and motivating things, what they do at the top with these organizations is very different from many of the members that are in. It's just like in the military. I might go in and be like, one of the things I did while I was in the military, we were clearing minefields so that they can start rebuilding homes in a war-torn area, in a former war zone. Did I have anything to do with what my commanders above, the negative shit that was going on before that? No. Did I even know? No. So, I mean, just because somebody is a part of these movements or believe in some of these movements don't mean that they're connected to what's going on at the top of these movements or even have knowledge what's going on at the top of them.
Anyone and anything can be misused with authority, even when it's the intention for good. Like
love.
Perfect example, Ender's Game.
Uh-huh.
You never seen the movie Ender's Game?
No, I guess not.
Ender's Game, they have these kids. They have these kids playing this video game, and it's like trying to defeat this enemy. And he's playing this game and reaching these levels, and because obviously the kids were the only ones that were really good at these games. Well, and they think they're playing a game, but they don't realize the whole time they're fighting against an enemy, and they're killing the enemy of their superiors. And then at the very end, they let them know, oh, yeah, you killed off all these people. Well, not people, it's like aliens. But these were supposedly friendly aliens. But they don't tell these kids who are fighting them in a mock game that they're actually really killing them. That's what I mean.
That's a movie?
That's a movie, yes.
Hey,
that's some heavy shit, dude.
Just close on the point.
That's a Milgram experiment, and that's a Milgram experiment from hell. Sorry.
Like, I just want to close on this point and shut that conversation down. Like, Franco is my dog. I love that motherfucker.
Yeah. We love you, Franco.
I've loved that man for fucking. I love that guy. He is one of the more fucking emotionally aware people I've ever met, and
Oh, yeah.
I envy a lot of his emotional control and stability. Like, I love that fucking guy.
I mean, I'm like,
And
do y'all realize I would
people
take
forget.
a bullet? I'd take a bullet for Franco. What are you guys talking about? I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
When I and again, this is just again, just because I don't think I forget this myself sometimes, so I think it's important to remind people is that when I was just getting started on down researching stuff, Franco was the first content creator
Yeah.
to ever run with my stuff.
Yeah.
And that's because he immediately saw that I was sourcing everything, and he even mentioned it. But then he took it. It's not that he was able to give my research the light that it needed into Crystal Ball and Reid Hoffman and all this other rabbit hole crap and 245,000 she took a salary, but it was that he took it and expanded on it and showed in context what it meant. And that was like, I remember watching that, and that was like one of the moments that I was like, hey, maybe the thing is that I can do this kind of research, and I just don't, it's not more about me going out and trying to like convince everyone to air it or run it or show it, but just let the research speak for itself.
Yeah.
And that was a key lesson.
Yeah. And I've had conversations with Franco about certain things that he just intuitively knew about something that it wasn't right. And he asked me a question about it. I'm like, yeah, this is for this, this, and this. And this is on the occult side, right? Like, I am no master of the occult, but I sure do know a whole lot about certain magical symbols. And because of that, I follow the money. So, like, yeah,
we follow the money on this, and I follow the just the
Franco
people who have been doing this.
Gave me a big break too. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, a lot of you wouldn't have even probably heard of me if it wasn't for Franco. So, I mean,
so did Pasta. Thank you, Pasta. If you're still watching.
Yeah, and well, yeah, if you're still watching, much shout out to Pasta, and thank you so much for being on. And for those who make sure you guys watch AM Wake Up, I will be on there, and it's coming up soon. It's coming up soon for me to be on there. But here's something that I want to show real quick. Or now is it to the point where we have to defend Alice Bailey? I just want to know, do we have to defend Alice Bailey? Because a lot of the, when it starts talking about in here, some of these different terms that are being used come literally from Alice Bailey herself. The work of the Tibetan master and Alice Bailey, and with Helena Petrova Blavatsky before her, was the direct result of the reorganization within the spiritual hierarchy over the last 100 years. This is talking about the Arcane Society.
Actually, and on that too, can we ground that in history? So one of the reasons why sometimes you'll see people wearing like free Tibet shirts or whatever the fuck. I saw one recently on some like thing that would, I think it was like something basketball. I saw a clip somewhere. But I think it was, anyway, or maybe it was a rap performance. I can't remember. Anyway, so the reason why the PRC made sure to take Tibet is because on their side, to argue from their point of view, like it was a slavocracy in Tibet, right? So like when they talk about a Tibetan master, they're not just talking about like someone who's very mentally disciplined. They're talking about someone who exerts an authority of master over their subjects, right? Like, so there's a reason why that taking advice from someone who was still the master at that point, like there's a spiritual authority that they're trying to learn from that guy, right? Does that make sense? So like keep that in mind, that the Tibetan master means that you're not only mentally disciplined, but you're a fucking slave master. Like you're an owner of human beings.
Yeah, I mean, this Tibetan master was somebody who Blavatsky believed that she saw. This is not being confirmed, but believed that she had saw years before, and then when she took her worldwide trip, it said that she met this person and they were the master who was actually there in Tibet. And none of this stuff has been founded to be true or that person ever existed, any of that stuff. So we don't know if this was something that actually happened, a figment of her imagination, whatever.
I've got speculation.
One thing that, what's your speculation, Jay?
This is totally out there, but this is just, hopefully this will bring some humor to it. But what if, so the TV hadn't been developed yet, right? Like, what was this? When her and Blavatsky were going about their thing? Because again, we know technology is not released right away, but what if someone, even a radio, which was around back then, what if someone just put a radio in her room that was literally whoever this ascended master was saying shit to her at night? And she took
just
that as the
pranking
word.
her literally. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's
literally
all
pranking
possible.
her, and then she created this shit.
I mean, literally, that's very, very possible. I mean, and so if this person is the person who is the foremost expert, the one who has created most of the doctrine and terms, belief systems, breakdowns, which most of the people have passed down, and many of the other people who have passed this information down are all tied in with Masonic organization, Rosicrucians, the Jesuit order, all those things like that. This Lucis Trust, which was based literally off of Lucifer, that was the name of it. And if you guys saw in the thumbnail, I put Blavatsky talked great things about Lucifer is actually the great master. And so this is something bigger than that. And I mean, they literally give speeches at Davos. They literally have seminars for the world leaders at Davos for this. This is what most of these world leaders, the same people that I thought most of us were against, this is what they preach. This is their gospel.
Yeah, so I mean, like, teaching planned by the hierarchy, right? So what they've done is take the freedom and the power that comes from that freedom from the astral plane and superimposed it as everyone else is their subjects, because they're the enlightened elite, right? They're in the hierarchy.
They've inverted
freedom of
you nailed
the spirit.
Yeah. Well, they invert everything. They just get you to use the flowery language.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's the thing, like, because I've been accused of being like new agey, and like I've had people go after me on that sometimes, not really a lot, just because I brush it off my back because I don't have a need to defend it. Like, how I believe is very much what I've experienced and witnessed. So it's a very vast multitude of various faiths and practices. And what's interesting is that it really struck a chord with me on Bailey, because when you look at this kind of work, it is about the inversions. And like, even that, we were just looking at Marcus, like the fact that hierarchy is on there made me just laugh, because it was like, I'm just thinking how, like, it's worse than an inversion almost, because it's an act of deception, right? So it's not just inverting it.
And that's my point in it. It can say, oh, well, like for instance, if let's say I'm babysitting a kid, and I want to take the kid to the store because all of a sudden I just broke the window in the back and I don't want the kid to see the door. This is part of what they do with some of the stuff. They show you the good while hiding the bad and pretend that it's all about the good. And we're just trying to expose you all to, no, it's some funky shit going on back here in the background that you guys are ignoring because you're focusing on one aspect of it. And I wasn't even bringing up that one aspect, going to that. I'm bringing in who these people are and what they're doing, what their goal is. And if we say that these elites are the people we're concerned about, then we need to know what they're doing and why they're doing it. Now, we haven't even got into the purpose of why they're trying to do any of this, because, there is a reason for it. There's a reason why.
Well, yeah, like they wish to assume the role of the arbiter of history.
Well,
right?
history and everything.
Yeah, like,
when
well,
we talk about
the history, right? Like,
yeah,
control the past, control the present.
Yeah.
If you own the history and then you own the future as well, because you can force and manifest things through the physical world, your mental state, and through powers that you've borrowed from beyond the veil, like, you can force things into motion that have consequences for billions of people, right? But they feel like they're
You hit on it.
Delete.
Yeah.
Dude, think about it.
I'm sorry,
And
we
it
haven't
just
let
occurred to me.
Fuzz. We haven't let Fuzz say anything in a while. So Fuzz,
Oh, yeah,
we need to hear you speak.
I'm a fucking loudmouth. I'm sorry, bro.
I really think it's a lot more simple than just simply trying to claim a position of authority. I really think it's dangerously simple. turn with the best of your ability. Just get as many people as you can to not read the Bible, to turn away from it, to not read it, to look at it through any other lens, through any other religion, except the actual text itself. Because, all right, going on the whole doctrine of Christ consciousness. All right. We're assuming that if it has the name Christ consciousness, and Christ must be Christ while he walked the earth, he had to have been an authoritative figure that is centered around this doctrine. Correct? Does that make sense? That, like, what Christ achieved and what he displayed and what he taught on this earth is what should be followed. Like, or that state of consciousness that he showed in an example is something that we all should reach and try to strive for. As what the audio clip had mentioned earlier, that something along the lines of the Christ consciousness of my own being, or something along those lines. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the emulation of the archetype, the emulation of the Christ, the perfect one, right?
Okay, so through the metaphorical lens, it's also safe to assume that Christ would be the one to be able to decide or discern or to point out who would reach that level of consciousness to be like him. He would be able to point to one individual and say, yeah, like that guy, he's following exactly what I'm doing, and he has reached his true self. Does that make sense?
Well, like I alluded to before, in the Tao, there's definitely a balance to be struck, right? Like, I think there's plenty of people that can lift their consciousness up to the point where they can actually shift history in good ways, right? Like, I just happen to think that a lot of times when you want to emulate the archetype, you're choosing an archetype with hidden meanings, right? Like white Jesus, right? If that makes sense. So you had these pious people that worshipped the white Jesus, which was an inorganic fucking thing, right? That were able to carry out the slaughter of thousands of people in like some really grotesque ways.
They identified with white. Oh, I didn't even think of that, dude.
Like
Marcus, remember when I was talking? I'm sorry, I didn't mean. I'm sorry, Jad.
Like that's a form of blood magic, right? So the entity that he made a deal with, that was definitely not Christ, right? He impaled 7,000 or some shit of the invaders, most of them still alive. So that dude, like, he was in contact with an entity, right? And I think that you can be led astray, but you can also be led in the right path, right? Like, I mean, me and Jack were kind of have our own stupid little superhero powers because we decided that we were going to stop using substances to control our lives.
I would say that there's a different understanding than it's deeper than just a simple question like that. So, but sorry. One thing I wanted to get this before we got too far. Somebody made a comment to you, and I want to know if you wanted to respond or not. Says, do you see it?
I never even been in the infrared community. What are you talking about, guy?
Yeah.
And myself and Marcus have our own disagreements on things.
Yeah.
Just like anybody normal. Especially, yeah.
Literally,
there is no brainwashing going on.
Literally, all me and Fuzz have ever done is Fuzz has asked me different things. What's my understanding on? And Fuzz is, you got to remember, Fuzz has literally read the Bible. Well, you're almost finished with the whole thing at this point, I believe.
I have read everything, but I do need refreshers on a couple.
So me and him have both read the entire Bible. for ourselves and gotten our own discernments from it. So it's not about me reading something and I got some secret text and I'm telling him stuff and he just believe in it. Also, everything that, even which I teach on my Hebrew Apologetics channel, I tell you to go and check it out for yourself. I don't tell anybody to take my own word. So it's no form of brainwashing. I just think that's really disrespectful for you to even assert those comments. But I mean, I don't tell anybody that they have to believe what I believe. Big Smoke or whoever you actually are. I mean, so I mean,
look, man,
this is not helpful to the conversation.
Fucking ideological trap, and I'm not now. So like, let's try and stay away from ad hominem shit. We're trying to like have
come on,
serious conversation and not bring no bullshit in, please. Like that's the second fucking time. Like, come on.
Thank you, Thomas. Marcus and Fuzz have disagreements with everyone and each other. They agree with others too. Exactly. There's stuff that I agree with Thomas on. There's stuff I disagree. From the beginning, me and Thomas have had this. We agree on that. We don't agree on. I mean, so you're not going to agree with everybody on everything. You're not going to disagree with everybody on everything. I mean, Stephen, who was in here earlier, me and Stephen were having some disagreements on the political stuff with China, and it really wasn't even. It was more so. It's not an issue which I was really engaged into the level which he was engaged in, and so I didn't see some of the things he's looking at. That's all it was, and it kind of got a little upset about the fact that I didn't really jump on somebody's head about some of those issues. We're not all going to be experts on every single topic either. I mean, come on, we are human beings.
I mean, people get trapped into ideology all the fucking time, man. And then
and again, like
crap of fucking progress too. Like, let's be real about it. Like, sometimes fucking people get trapped in this ideology of, well, we're going in the right direction.
Yeah,
but that direction is fucking contrived from start to finish. Your path has been laid before you, and you walk it.
I gotta figure out how to do that.
Like, it's not a big fucking deal.
100%. Well, and that's the thing is that, like, and again, like, just to speak from our experience, like Chad and I both, like, it's kind of, it's like, I'm not gonna go into a bunch of the details, but our parallels are pretty hilarious on when we've gotten into things that happen to have been like around the same times. The fact that we're both recovery and we're doing all this stuff, but that's to say that, like, when we're talking about this stuff, like, we've been there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I went through a phase to where I was almost every other thing I had to either quote Marx or Lenin. And I was just like, I remember my mindset during that was I was lost. I didn't, and again, I'm not going after ML or anything like that. Like, but go with whatever you think will bring the most happiness to the world. You know what I'm saying? But like, for me, it was realizing that I was diverting most of my responsibility onto what I was following, to where I was separating any kind of potentiality for me to fail on that belief system. And that's where it came into conflict very heavily, because it seemed like it stripped part of my like spiritual essence away when I was into it, because it was all about anger and everyone around me was always angry. And then again, after that, pivoting more, I started getting more awake to who I was as a spiritual resonant being on this earth, getting into Schumann resonances, which are, so if you haven't looked that up, they're freaking amazing. And that's when you realize that things are a lot more complicated than we think. And no one knows the truth.
Right. Like, I give a lot of shit to MLs, and I think mostly it's just me yelling at a former version of myself, right?
Same.
Like, I understand you should be angry. There should be a vast amount of anger. But be very careful who you trust to the keys to the kingdom with. Right? Like, be very careful of the doors that you open that are innate in humankind. Fucking to go primitive and rip people apart and fucking get blood drunk, that is some very, very dangerous territory, because once it starts, you can seldom stop it. But like, I mean, that actually ties into like the original, right? Like when you're talking about the choice that Adam and Eve have to eat this apple, right? The knowledge of good and evil, right? So I take that to mean, if you know how to,
oh shoot, I forgot.
If you have the knowledge of how to commit the most insane evils, like that that breaks your mind in a sense, right? Like you have to be vigilant and emulate the good things that you can do, not the bad things, because that knowledge of evil that you can get, like it's an intoxicant, right? The power that you would consume from killing other human beings, right? Like the power that you consume when you commit certain transgressions against people, like the power that you consume from
And that's the
people.
ego.
Yeah.
You're right. That's the ego seeking its release through you, because it's the only way it gets expression. Like this is what I really like. A big breakthrough of mine was realizing that the ego is so artificial that it has to manipulate you into doing shit.
It's contrived, right? And like also in not just your ego, but your ego state, right? Like there's always a battle in the committee, right? As we call it in recovery, right? There's a battle of which ego state's trying to take over. Is it going to be the asshole today? Is it going to be the considerate guy? Is it going to be the guy that remembers to call his wife when he's on lunch? Right? Like there's all these different ego states, and like in the Jungian sense, that's those are archetypes that you're trying to project, right? That you're trying to manifest the archetypes that you've seen throughout your of the heroes or the villains, right? Sometimes people get the heroes and the villains mixed up. Read American history and you'll find that out real fucking quick.
Yeah.
So like there's a form of mind control that allows certain evils to be committed at these levels too, right? Because that if I'm going to actually talk about Babylonian money magic, I'm also going to talk about their problem with blood magic, right? They shed enough blood, and it's magical currency for them.
You hit on something, and that's think about the term ascendant masters. What's the inversion of that?
Right.
Descendant slaves.
Right.
That just connected to me. I was just like, why? I was wondering why they use that term, and I was like, oh, that's because they're literally they're. If you follow that, the Alice Balian warped New Age beliefs, right? Then you're essentially saying I don't have power to make my mind up. So just like that guy said, because the people in the audience, you heard that interaction, saw the devil, or what he described with the goatee on his shoulder. He then made it real and then followed it.
Yeah,
I just not thought of that.
Yeah, and like the archetypal story of that is the angel on one side and the devil on the other, right? So like that, you can use psychology, you can use consciousness, you can use the occult, you can use entity, you can use whatever titles that you'd like to use, but all these things are in existence.
And by the way, I wanted to throw a shout out to Allie. I think I saw Allie hopped in here for a moment. If she's still in here, glad to see you. Hopefully you're feeling better. And hopefully we can get back on topic. I noticed one thing in the leftist community, and I'm gonna just call everybody out. Everything is everybody's too freaking sensitive. Stop being so sensitive. Our goal is to get information out to people and for them to learn from the information. And we spend too much time worrying about if we're hurting somebody's feelings or not hurting somebody's feelings. That's the reason why the people at the top keep kicking everybody's ass down at the bottom, because you're so worried about offending each other. Just get the damn information out. I don't have a problem working with people where I might have disagreements with or not. And there's people who I go and have disagreements with on here where outside of our topics, I would go and, let's go have drinks and have a good time and whatever. And then there's people where I'll get on and I'll do content with, and then I would never want to hang out with them outside of it. That's a fact of how things work. But if our focus is on trying to get the proper information to our audiences, that should be all we should really be concerned about. This isn't just, we don't get on here just because we want to hear our own voices and hang out, even though we do like to hang out. We believe in this information and feel it's vital to share it with you. And also, for people who are in the audience who are just here to be negative, really, please go do something else. We actually do care about what we're trying to do here, and all you're doing is trying your best to derail it. And it's like, if you don't like what we're doing, you do not have to listen. Nobody's forcing you to listen, but you also shouldn't be here to try to destroy somebody else's platform.
Oh, I guess we found prop.
Yeah, of course. That's who it is. It's Prop the whole damn time. Who's in here jumping from name to name to name like the loser that he is. Dude, go do something else.
Start no beef with Prop neither, man.
Well, Prop is the one who has the beef here. I literally never go to Prop's channel because I don't care what Prop is talking about. I don't care if it's good. I don't care if it's bad. I don't care. I don't get why Prop is so obsessed and worried about what I have to say. If you don't like what I have to say or don't believe what I have to say, then don't listen to it. Just go. Stop being a loser.
There was a bit of a point I wanted to make. So there was a point that I wanted to prove with bringing up the example of Christ consciousness and how that is. I wanted to actually use the Bible to prove how that is actually contrary to what actually Christ taught. All right. So 2, 3 scriptures, actually. They won't be that long. This is Matthew 11:11. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. This is Christ talking, and he's saying, of this world, while I'm walking in it, at this time, there isn't. Through a metaphorical lens, this would sound something like, no one knows their true self more than this man, John the Baptist. There is no one else higher or greater or risen than this man in consciousness. And yet, if this was true through a metaphorical lens, the following verses would not make sense. This is John 1:19. And this is the record of John. When the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, who art thou? And he confessed and denied not, but confessed, I am not the Christ.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's no person that attains perfection, right? It's true progress. It's not the myth of progress, right? It's not what we've been told is progress. True progress is trying to emulate the things that you want to see in society, right? Society or not society, right? Like there's certain interactions between people that are totally contrived on the basis of programming that whether through our conscious or unconscious mind, we're just repeating the cycle over and over again, right? Like the call to consciousness is to break the cycle and move history in a more positive direction, right? But yes, there are people that believe that they are the chosen one, right? And when you become, and when you obsess over being some type of chosen, if you're chosen, then other people have been unchosen, right? It's like the kids on the basketball court. If you got a fucking 9 kids and you have 4 on one team and 4 on the other, the one that's going to get left out, right? There's always someone that loses when you're chosen for some special reason, right? And these people believe that they're special and chosen, right? I mean, we can see the same thing reflected in history through Israel right now. You have the chosen people, right, that are kicking Palestinian people out of their homes. Then you have the fucking, even Mao warned of this, the Han Chinese chauvinism that existed within the PRC, right? The learned elite, right, of the upper echelons of the Bolshevik party, right? We're just going back through a few different, and the way that the United States is now, I'm not like, holy shit, like the layers of the United States now, but
there's a reason why me and Marcus in our understanding, we call the United States Mystery Babylon.
Hold on a second.
Ooh.
Propaganda. And let me say this first, and then you guys can time him out and block him. Whatever was said on Twitter a couple of months ago, nobody here cares. Go away. Now you guys can block him. So yeah, anytime he gets on doing any of the spam and stuff, you guys just block him out for me. Thank you.
Yeah, prop, just stop, man. I'm not trying to fucking deal with no bullshit, man.
That's all he
Somebody-
seems to be about. If
like-
somebody says one thing about him 4 or 5 months ago, he's going to get on every stream and just be an idiot. Just go away, dude.
So, Mr. Streets, my channel would be essentially be considered Marcus's channel, Hebrew Apologetics.
Prop, fucking stop it, dude.
Just go away. I'm trying to. I do not come and try to do this to your show. Just let me have my own show. We get it. We get it. You don't like me. You feel I've wronged you and hurt your feeling. Go cry in the corner. Leave me the fuck alone. All right, back to the subject. There's a little bit more that I wanted to get to, and then we can get ready to I don't know. Depends on.
Well, yeah, like the whole John the Baptist story, right? Like it's a warning to not see yourself as perfect, right? It's a warning to attain humility, right? Like I work with a guy, he's very into John the Baptist and the humility of it, right? Like he never really took. He has this saying, "Pride and ego are not my amigo," right? So, like to be spiritually aware, right? To be one with God, source, the divine, to be on that plane of existence with people, like to not forget that you are not 100% perfect is a very good thing to, I guess, try to emulate, right? Always emulate humility. If being in a leadership position in my work has taught me anything, like that would be it, right? And
you're spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, Coach.
Like, don't ever act like a fucking like you're the god in the relationship, right? Do not exercise authority over other human beings like that, right? Like you can lead men without dominating over them, right? So
Oh yeah. That's right. I forgot. You can't see me nodding. Yes, we can lead without dominating over people. Correct. I had this one other part I wanted to pop up for you guys to take a look at. I want to hear your thoughts. Where's it at? Yeah, so let me read a little bit of this. I found this interesting. Cycle of Conference. This was from 2021. And it says, the cycles of conference. Dear coworkers, this is on the Lucis Trust website. Dear coworkers, the cycle of conference is placing a focus beginning today on the World Economic Forum virtual annual meeting, the Davos Agenda, 25th to 29th January 2021. In the light of the coronavirus, the Davos Agenda will be focused on a Great Reset initiative, with the intention of offering insights to help inform all of those determining the future state of global relations, the direction of national economies, the priorities of societies, the nature of business models, and the management of global commons. There is a clear recognition amongst the organizers that humanity is facing potential for transformational change, and this 2021 meeting envisions an opportunity to build a new social contract that honors the dignity of every human being. Now, it sounds good when you say that you're trying to honor every human being and things like that. And that's the reason why I say some of the language they use can be flowery. But when we look at how these people who have been in these types of societies, I'm talking about like the Alice Baileys, and before her, forgetting the other guy's name, because there were societies even before Alice Bailey had the Arcane Society in New York. Well, Emmett Fox came a little bit later. Emmett Fox was like in the 50s. Blavatsky, which you have Blavatsky, who was on the West Coast out of San Francisco, which San Francisco, you had a lot of groups, into that New Age movement at the time. A lot of these people were the spiritual advisors for most of our presidents, most of their advisors, and a lot of the world leaders. And if these are their spiritual advisors, then why is what they're doing being so different than what they say they're trying to achieve? That's the question that I want to put out there for the panel.
Well, just like I was saying earlier, and I think Jack noticed it the second that I sent to him too. Give me a second to pull it up.
Was it the part on Jesuits that we found for Choosy?
Sure. If you want to use that one, sure.
I got you, Choosy.
Well, hold on one second. The liberty of man consists solely in this, that he obeys natural laws because he has himself recognized them as such, and not because they have been externally opposed upon him by an intrinsic will whatsoever, divine or human, collective or individual, right? So these people present themselves as the divine, right? They are the messengers of the divine. They are a collective of individuals that are messages from the divine on the earth. Right, they have all those positions of authority, right, and therefore they've created a scientific body that is beyond reproach, right? It's part of their plan, right? You have to lock down all the different pillars of existence, right? There's the material, we all know about that one. Thanks, Marx. Thanks, Lenin. Heard it.
Which Marx and Lenin were also funded by some of these same organizations, as far as at least the Masonic organizations in Europe.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, we get it. There's the material world, right? But there's also an emotional part of the world, and there's a mental part of the world, and there's definitely a spiritual part of the world. So they want to have every single pillar of existence captured. What do you think, Jack?
Oh, 100%. I was trying to find the Jesuit tie on that, but
yeah, I can do that. Hold on one second, because I was having to word search these and look up some of the words. like procrustes, which is when you cut someone's arms and legs off to fit inside of a bed. But
why does it work for that?
The second reason is this: a society which should obey legislation emanating from a scientific academy, not because it has understood itself the rational character of this legislation, in which case the existence of the academy would become useless, but because this legislation emanating from the academy was imposed in the name of science, which it venerated without comprehending. Such a society would be a society not of men, but of brutes. It would be a second addition to those missions in Paraguay, were submitted so long to the government of the Jesuits. It would surely
there you go, Choosy,
descend to the lowest stage of idiocy.
And again, when was that written?
1871.
1871, y'all, and we're still dealing with, like, basically, I mean, he's calling out the exact same thing. Like, this is where, like, you really have to ask yourself the cyclical nature of all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason why is because you are doing this. This is why people want to, dude, just leave, man. Just go away. You leave me alone. I will never ever mention your name again. Just go away. And I know, and sorry. I'm gonna get back to and thanks for everybody. Thanks, babe. Thanks, Liz, who's helping me out there, and everybody else who's trying to stop this so we can carry on with our show. Some of you guys who are his friends, can you guys talk to him and tell him, dude, just stop. This is so childish. Go do your own thing somewhere else, man. Now, how I would rule is if somebody disagrees with me, they can disagree with me. Fine, go disagree with me. Don't care. It could be. Life might be that shitty in Canada. I don't know. I don't want to shit on all of Canada. There's nothing I want to work out with this person. There's literally nothing. I don't. At this point, I I don't care. I don't care anything this person has to say, good, bad, whatever. It can be a truck coming my way. I don't even want to hear that. Just ignore me. Just go. You be in your corner. I be in my corner. Cool. I don't want nothing to do with you at all. Period. I don't value anything you tell me. There's nothing that I get from any of these interactions. It's almost like you just need the attention this badly.
Just leave him alone, man. Just let him. Just let him be. Just let him be.
Well, I'm just saying it's just annoying. People don't realize this person has been coming on this channel, been coming on my What We've Been Thinking channel, been coming on my Hebrew Apologetics channel, been going through my 4 different Twitter accounts. And thank goodness they don't know any other accounts that I might have, because they go and literally harass me, and they've been doing this for going on about 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah, just let it go.
Just outright harassment for no reason.
Like, fuck,
go
man.
away. All right.
I'm wrapped up in none.
Have we even gotten to 7 rays yet? Because that's a level of batshit that I want people to fully comprehend. And also, when it's called the Lucius Trust with Bailey and all that, that's not they're not trying to hide that. That is very much. There's even one of these either one of the rays or one of her different elements where she's literally talking about Lucifer. Illuminati. Illuminati's. Thank you, Kelly. I completely forgot about Illuminati's. Oh, and then Steve had a good one too. What was it? Illuminati? Steve, I'm sorry. I'm slaughtering.
Hold on, let me see if Steve is still over there. Let's see if he can.
Steve, we need to punch up on Illuminati's.
No Steve in there, but
also known as the Beyonce effect.
Yes. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, let me pull that back up, because there's more info on there, and it was just like, wow, really? That's what's going on there. And they pretty much just lay this information right out. Here, I'll put it on the screen, and see if you need any of these links, let me know. I can come dig them out. So let's see. Oh, second paragraph. The Davos agenda comes at the time when a general atmosphere of fatigue and frustration produced by the pandemic and the desire to return to stability of a known past could undermine the will to really think through and implement changes that are needed. It is here that our collective intention to plant a lighted seed of will energy into the heart of the thought form under construction at the virtual gathering on a play. Virtual gathering can play a vital role. So this was something that happened in 2021, going into this full, and there's a lot of times when they do these, they normally release them like roughly about a day before. And so there's not a lot of time for people to get into it and read what they're actually talking about and vet it. They just catch it to the last minute, like, what the heck? Well, what did they just mention? So, I mean, what's your thoughts on them trying to implement these changes?
Oh, I got another pretty good quote, actually. The one that I wanted to bring up the first time. A scientific body, to which had been confided the government of society, would soon end by devoting itself no longer to science at all, but to quite another affair. And that affair, as in the case of all established powers, would be its own eternal perpetuation by rendering the society confided to its care ever more stupid and consequently more in need of its government and direction. These people are very much into forcing you into a box of not so intelligent nowhere. Right? Like, that's why we have all the distractions.
Apparently, Glory Jones, what does it say? Oh, I guess Glory is out there somewhere. Shout out and much love to Glory if she is in the road. But I appreciate it.
Stephen Illuminati.
Oh, there she is. Illuminati, that wins right there.
That
he
wins.
Gets the prize. He gets the prize. He
You
gets
got
the prize
Illuminati and then Illumititties.
Naughty. Being naughty. Stop it.
Yes, look, you're loved all the way around. I'm falling asleep, but Wagwan, much love. Oh, so glad. We need to get you back on here too. We haven't had you on in a while. The show is missing some Glory Jones. We need your insight, your energy, and for you to talk with. Oh, that's right. It was Jack who you were talking to about all that anime stuff that I have no clue about, making me feel really, really old. But it's still much appreciated anyway. I think that was and then one of the last things that I wanted to say, because I mean I could go into so much other stuff, but I feel at this point it would almost just kind of be repetitive. We've kind of overall went into that a lot of this movement was pushed by a handful of people who are looked at by most of us as very unsavory. These unsavory people have had their hooks in at the very, very top ladders of government, around the top business leaders, and all the way through everything. Hebrew kitty. But one of the things which they talked about, and it goes back to, was it Bush, senior and junior, and they were talking about a whole new, New World Order. And all of us have heard that phrase for so long. This is not something that is just a catchphrase. It's something that they have been steadily trying to implement. And it's not something that, all of a sudden you wake up. This is something that by the moment, it just keeps getting closer and closer and closer to this New World Order. And a lot of people focus on the one world government part, the one world currency part, the one world education and things like that. But a lot of people forget that religion is something that goes on. There are, I don't know how many billions of Christians, I don't know how many billions of people of Islamic faith. Then you have all the different Far East religions, whether it's Hindu, Buddhism, Taoism. Then you have people who are into Celtic faiths. You have people who are in Wiccan. You have people. My point is, you have a bunch of different people who have a bunch of different beliefs and a bunch of different faiths and beliefs in different pantheons and gods. And they would have to be also trying to merge these things into one also. And so from what my understanding is and my belief, from what I'm seeing, from what I'm reading, and from my understanding, even from the Bible, that has been a concerted goal of the wicked, which controls the earth, is to control it in every aspect. And that goes all the way back to the Tower of Babylon, where they seek for one government, one language, one currency, one education, everybody all under this one unified collective. And whenever you're trying to force these things through human means, it's always going to result in more than likely some kind of a process of rounding up people, isolating people, doing all these different things to force this will. I'm trying to remember what the name of this one movie is. Fahrenheit. Well, it's a book also, which I do recommend. Yes, 451, where they're trying to destroy all the different thought that you can have out there. And their goal is to force everybody into this one society and live one particular way. We look at movies like Demolition Man, where they police the way you eat. They police your verbiage. Speech. Everything is your speech. Everything is controlled. And these elites, because of the prophecies, and I would say specifically the Abrahamic faiths, there's a prophecy that basically says that it'll all come under a one world faith, in a sense. One world religion, one world currency order, all those things like that. what these people who try to invert everything do is they try to make themselves the God of this earth. They try to force it under their own will and to force everybody under their different. Yes, Cat 83 says it perfectly. The main premise is Satan controls the world, which, yes. Oh, let me read this one by Liz. It says, for the rod of the wicked shall not rest upon the lot of the righteous, lest the righteous put forth their hands unto iniquity. Very, very good scripture. But that's what these people, their goal is to do, is to create their own world where they are God and controlling every single one of us. That's why all this surveillance is an issue. That's where all this censorship, which we're seeing, whether it's social media, through the news, media, all of these different things. This is what all of this is about. So that was my little spill. I'll get off my platform, my soapbox. And any other thoughts the panel wanted to share?
I think that they already kind of did that once with the Catholic Church, right? And the Muslim faith was borrowing a whole lot from Arab mysticism in some places, right?
Yeah.
Like
until it fractured. I know what you're saying.
Classical cultural imperialism, right? And colonization and assimilation, just something people have been doing for tens of thousands of years, right? Like possibly hundreds of thousands if the world is older, right? So, I mean, we create these things that we can reflect divinity out of ourselves for, right? Mm-hmm. We are creating gods in our own image, right? And like, I think that's what these people are trying to do, but they're doing it, which you can do from a place of love. I don't think most of these people are doing it from a place of love, right? Like the technocracy is not your friend.
No.
It never is, regardless of what the technocracy labels itself as, right? No, you don't fucking have the answers for everything. There's still an unknown and infinite and a divinity.
Yes.
Right.
Here, let me say one thing. Uma, I'm sorry I haven't translated anything. If you could you when you comment, could you comment on the Rockfin one? I'm able to copy and then paste it and translate it easier that way. I haven't figured out how to do it here from YouTube, but I would share more of your comments if I could, but I haven't been able to translate. I'm sorry. But continue, sir.
Yeah, I mean, Jack, do you got anything to add on that?
Well, and it's all part of like, I'm air quoting, but spellcraft, like that's very real in the minds of these people. Is that like, and I think a lot of it is like, there's there were some ways of looking at this that really helped me. And one of those was that all of these are offers, right? Symbols are offers, right? The combination of sixes is an offer. The combination of threes, like two threes. What happens is that is a form of magic in a way, from the standpoint that if you manage to get a bunch of people pissed off over symbols on something that may even be completely unrelated, like there's a street and one of the letters fucked up. I'm not saying don't acknowledge that you're at a street that a letter fucked up and now it's 666 or something, right? That there may be some significance. What I'm saying is that if that symbology that manifested in your world destroyed your day, look more into what's going on there, because that's all part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Illuminati.
We got to remember that one. Steven is.
I mean, we got Illuminati, so I mean, we're good to go.
Illuminati.
You getting Illuminati with the Illuminati's? Yeah.
Right, but like, if you don't control people's spiritual aspect of their lives, then they're gonna run roughshod of you eventually. You have to control that, right? Like that's part of imperialism and colonization all the time, is to destroy the other party's divinity, right? Now they wish to do the same thing. They're going to assimilate all the religions into their one chosen one, where they have the chosen prophets that can disseminate the prophecies that the Almighty have wrought upon us, right? Like it's the chosen idea. Like there's something so fucking special about those people that they're somehow in an existence higher, right? Like it's where a lot of these dumb shit eugenicists get their dumb shit ideas from, right? Like
case in point. But you got to remember, they're doing it out of love, Shadow.
Yes.
They're doing it they're doing it because they absolutely love you,
Filthy
and because that's what they have to do
what their
to
potential
correct.
production of my goods is. Filthy fucking plebs over there breathing up my fucking air.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. That's what the whole Georgia Guidestone thing was about. We need to get the population down to this level, and then once we have it down to this level, also it's easier to control this level of people to get them all to believe what we say.
Let's be real. Ted Turner needs better hobbies than the destruction of mankind.
Well, I mean, all of them do, but what it is they honestly believe, and like they honestly believe that if people are allowed to have their beliefs and faith, or anything that goes contrary to their narrative, then eventually they can start to find truth, in whether it's through spiritually or find truth through the secular means, to just find out the manipulations. And either way, they know that oppression, oppression makes a wise man mad. They know whether you're secular or spiritual, that's going to spell a reaction upon them, which is not going to be positive. So they have to, at this point, keep the boot on your throat.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty much.
For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so eventually you got to pay the piper, right? Like that's all concept of death.
Yeah, they're trying to hold it off as long as possible. I mean, they're literally standing on the mine, knowing the moment I lift my foot, I'm fucked.
Yeah, like, and I think it's just all very fortuitous, right? Like you push a couple of dominoes in this direction, push a couple of dominoes in that direction, utilize all the power that is at your disposal, whether it's of this world or another one, and carry on.
Yep, carry on. I like this from Kelly. Kelly says, I'm an ordained minister in the Universal Life Church, and I promise all of you that if I become the chosen prophet, the predator class will be headed to the guillotine. I say amen to that.
All praises.
All praises, yes. Fuzz, anything you'd like to add before we get on out of here?
So I just want to quickly explain the majority of my silence with some scripture.
Yeah.
All right.
Fuzz wanted to go in on some scripture. That's why. That man is serious about some scriptures. So how could it be my brainwashing of Fuzz if he's not talking scripture, he don't even really want to say very much? How would that be my brainwashing if that's not what I do?
Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and 12. If thou hast understanding, answer thy neighbor. If not, lay thy hand upon thy mouth.
You have more understanding you let on. You got to understand it.
Yeah, but this is your political channel, not.
I know. Well,
so
for those who don't know,
I have to take the majority backseat here.
For those who don't know, Fuzz, if it was up to Fuzz, he would be a little bit more combative to some of the things in the chat. So I'll just leave it at that. Am I right? I mean, am I right or wrong, Fuzz?
You're not wrong.
So
restraint had to happen.
Yeah, well, it's that one scripture: be as wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. Sometimes you have to just. And then another one. It says, "And if all possible, to be
peaceful with all men."
Exactly, be peaceful with all men. So even if you're not walking in agreement together, it's better to be, peaceful at least. And then you don't have wars and stuff, right? We don't have to all love everybody.
I've got a great
We
quote
just
that
wanna
kind of
get
ties
on.
into what we're talking about, Marcus.
Go ahead, sir.
This is by Rumi, and this is kind of what we're speaking into about how like it really like the whole ascended masters and all that insanity. But so the quote kind of goes along the lines of like truth was a mirror. Or, let's see, truth was a mirror in the hands of God. It fell and broke into pieces. Everybody took a piece of it, and they looked at it and thought they had the truth. I think that's it. Meaning that you know what I'm saying, like Rumi's kind of hinting at that what God is. People see that reflection and then they may assume, but they've only got a piece of it. And again, like I could take a Rumi quote and do a whole show on it. Absolutely.
Goodness, Jira, Jira just came in now. I was expecting you in sooner, but it says, here I am, late as usual. Now I can watch both parts. Yeah, hopefully. Oh, well, that's right. You didn't catch the first one. So yeah, the one 2 weeks ago, this was, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anybody who thinks that, oh, this was something, it's not anything malicious. This is something that literally this whole thing, what we're talking about, all this stuff, we were going to talk about it 2 weeks ago, right, Jack?
Oh yeah, I've been wanting to. I would want to talk about Bailey forever.
Yeah, we've been wanting to talk about Bailey forever. I forgot we didn't even bring up David Icke.
Oh, and that tie-in, that is a amazing one. Yeah.
I mean, if we got a couple of minutes, you know, Jack, why don't you just break down some of the David Icke stuff, because it really breaks into something which I saw. I mean, well, let me ask first, because I know it's late over there at Fuzz, and I believe you went out to camp today.
No.
Oh no.
You worked today.
Yeah. Okay. Is it too late for you, Shadow? Is it too late? If you guys got a couple more minutes, you can rock with me. I'll play a clip real quick that I thought was very interesting. It's from a former yoga instructor.
Yeah.
All right, we good? In the chat, you guys good for a little bit more? All right, because this, I mean, I just thought this was just super interesting when I saw it. I was like, what? I mean, I've always thought that was a possibility if you start playing around with some of these things, and we kind of went into a little bit of this with astral planing and possibly right hand angels, left hand angels, or spirits, or some people say positive vibrations, negative vibrations, or some people just say angels and demons. This is some of the stuff that this young man was talking about. Now, granted, I always put this disclaimer out there. The young man is a born again Christian, and you know, and for those who think because me and Fuzz we read the Bible a lot, we do not classify ourselves as Christian. We do not hold to the same beliefs as Christians in many respects. So it would be a misnomer to go into Christianity with what they believe and think that's what we believe. We do hold to the Bible being accurate and factual and historical book, but we don't interpret it quite the same way as the church for various reasons. And if you want to know why, go over to Hebrew Apologetics and check it out over there, and we can answer all your questions there.
Essentially, we're of the belief that if Christianity has any truth and validity, God and the Messiah would be considered liars from everything that is written.
Well, the biggest thing is we just realize like most people in Christianity have no historical understanding of any of the things that were actually going on. And so if you don't have historical context of what was going on, then when they're saying certain things, it doesn't make as much sense. Also, when you just throw out the Old Testament and don't realize a lot of the stuff they're saying is like paraphrasing stuff from the Old Testament and not realizing that there's more context to that scripture, then you're not getting the full proper understanding. And they do that in a lot of things. Also, poor translations, many things. I mean, I got just one, for example. A lot of Christians, if you ask them, who's your God? They'll say God. Well, what's your God's name? God. God is a generic term. So that's what I'm saying. Dealing with Christians, we do not classify ourselves as Christians. Just want to say that. But let's see. Here it is. I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there because we were talking about people twisting scriptures before, whether it was on this stream or another. Ex-yoga instructor. So let's see, what was it, like 35 seconds in, about right here.
Follow yoga, the spiritual path of yoga. The word yoga is to be yoked with, to be united with. And in the ancient texts of Hinduism, the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, which is like the Hindu Bible, talks about being yoked with the universal consciousness. It's all about merging your soul with the universal consciousness. Now, most people going to yoga studios doing yoga have no idea about this, nor do they have any really desire to do that. They're mostly there for physical exercise, for, you know, mental health and something beneficial to their life to just stay healthy and stay flexible, which are all great things. But the thing is, you are pursuing that under a greater covering, under a greater mission of yoga, which is completely anti-biblical, completely anti-Christian, and will actually end up in extreme demonization, because these gods and goddesses, many of the yoga poses are actually used to worship specific gods and goddesses. And not all of them. Many others have actually benefits to the body, to the organs, to the nervous system, to the anatomy of the human body. But others are specific poses and sequences to worship the sun, to worship specific gods like Shakti and Shiva and Ganesha. And the true religion of yoga is much more than just stretching. You want to go stretch and keep your body in shape, go stretch and keep your body in shape. But if you start getting into yoga and all this meditation and all this trying to find your inner light and trying to, you know, improve your thinking, and you're going to start falling slowly into this new age version of yoga that acts like it's compatible with Christianity, but it's not at all. And there are literal demons that created this religion, that created this spiritual discipline. The Vedas were written by the ancient sages who received divine revelation about the discipline of yoga, about merging one's soul with the universal consciousness, Brahma, they call it. And these poses came out of that. The discipline came out of that. And now we have it in the US, and it's one of the most popular, growing physical activities, even spiritualities in the world. This whole new age spirituality that yoga is such a huge part of. In the end, if you are doing yoga, you are opening up doors to demons that can get into your mind and lead you away from Christ slowly. It's not going to be a dramatic, like, whoa, right after this yoga session, I was like insanely demon possessed, unless you're doing bhakti yoga, which is literally chanting and summoning these gods and goddesses and worshiping them. Then that's basically instant access to your soul from these demons. That is an instant legal right. And I was involved in this stuff. I've seen it. And Kundalini yoga is literally a serpent that slithers up your spine, but they call it an energy. They call it a force that acts like a serpent, that coils up your spine until it reaches your highest chakra to activate enlightenment and soul activation and harmony between all your chakras. Kundalini yoga, I've literally seen demons get cast out of people who dig Kundalini yoga. I dig Kundalini yoga. I never got super deep into it, luckily, but other people devote years to this. And they're seeking deep down in their heart. They're seeking the Lord. They're seeking Jesus, but they just can't quite find him because they're getting deceived. And that's the master of the devil's deception, is the 90% truth and the 10% falsehood that leads you to hell. People involved in yoga, many of them are seeking true love. Little do they know that God is love and Jesus is the answer. If you're a Christian and you're watching this and you are a little iffy about...
Now, I mean, you guys can get the gist of this. I mean, I don't know anything about the stuff that he's talking about. I don't know any of the stuff that he's talking about because I've never did yoga. I mean, well, I'm not gonna say I've never did yoga. I've done yoga once before, but I've never went into any of that stuff he's talking about.
So
Never.
what he was trying to say is, I totally get where he's coming from. I've dealt with, see, again, I just my experience. This would be the kind of person that would claim to. Then again, I don't know this guy, so I'm not judging. But he really got an interpretation of a lot of the different things wrong, and that more so what he was saying there, it really struck me because I've seen that exact mindset of when I was doing work and actually doing stuff with yoga studios was and also just being a part of going to different ceremonies in the local Hindu areas, like different groups and different, actual things. It's the confusion of what is being worshipped and how it's being worshipped and what is actually going on, which I still understand. It's a very vastly different thing culturally. And he is talking about the different yoga, but what he was saying there is just, it's fine. That's his interpretation. And I totally get there are practitioners that are very demonic. Like I've extended energy, but it's almost like, where did he get that interpretation from? And more or less, who was his instructor? Because man, there's just a lot.
I don't know a lot about him.
Almost.
I'll say I don't know a lot about him, but from some of the stuff that I saw, and I'm not sure if it was him or as another guy. This guy said he's done like easily over 10,000 hours of yoga, and he started talking about demon possession and some other stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know how serious that is. I don't know how correct it is. I don't know if I believe it. I don't know if I don't believe it.
That's what I'm saying. But there's a part of truth in that what I'm kind of getting at. And thanks for reminding me on that, Marcus. It's that he's right on aspects of people do release their inner demons when they're doing the self work. Like this is what it was. If you notice what he's talking about, not once is he taking ownership on doing self work. That's what was kind of grinding like me a little bit, was that he was literally saying, well, and you know, this meditation's useless, all of this stuff. He did come back and say yoga, there are some legitimate stuff, but it just shows me that was just almost like that was a reactionary take. And I just need to, there was so much in that I would have to unpack, but really it does come down to, like, I don't like the villainization that he did on doing self-work, on meditation, on doing all that. He's kind of casting New Age into the Alice Bailey basket 100%. And I think that a more nuanced take would be, you can be a yoga practitioner and be a follower of Jesus. And in fact, most of the people I know in that field are people that left, the quote unquote church and are independent minded, that just went back to the Bible. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, he's casting a very wide net. And I get what he's saying, because yes, there are elements of that look very unnatural if you don't know what you're seeing. But when you're seeing someone who's going through like trauma relief, for example, it looks like a demonic possession, because the person's literally getting the traumas out of their body.
There are poses that you emulate to emulate certain entities, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, you're trying to expel certain things, right? It's not supposed to be something that you don't know what you're doing, and you can't even get to that level unless you know what you're doing. And there's nothing wrong with self-work. And the Kundalini experience is something I haven't had once, but like, I respect the people that have. Like,
well, you're not unlocking your Kundalini?
Like, yeah, I've never really, but that guy, that guy had just a bunch of authoritarian shit going on. He's like, yeah, fuck these guys. They're authoritarians, and they're bringing demons. So come over to my.
But I had the answer. Yeah.
Which I always like, especially when I'm listening to this. And I want to put this out there for the audience. Yes, many of you guys know that I do read the Bible a lot. Myself and Jose, we live by the Bible. But when it comes to Christians and giving their perspective on things, if you look at our channel, we go against Christians also. I mean, we just went against the so-called prophet Marcus Rogers not that long ago, and some of the bullshit that he was saying. And trust me, we're going to have a lot more Geno Jennings that we're going to be going against also. So there's plenty of heretics and liars and crooks and thieves in Christianity. And then let's not even forget about the evangelicals who love America and think it's this great bastion of perfection. And it's so wonderful when it literally goes against most of the stuff they say they believe in. So, I mean, so when it comes to Christians, we don't necessarily, but if it's somebody who's like dealing with all these different spirits and stuff like that, I figure we'll just listen to it and see what you all think. But sorry for interrupting, Shadow. What were you gonna say?
Well, I mean, with any power that you get from beyond the veil, like it can be used for good or evil, and your intention is wrapped up into that. So like if you're using your spirituality to like get laid, I've seen that in the New Age movement, I've seen that in the Christian movement, I've seen that in
I've seen Hebrew Israelites who do that. I mean,
yeah.
so
there's people that just do that.
There's people who will use anything, no shame in their game.
Yeah, like, but I don't know.
I'm gonna ask that guy about my yoga pants with Juicy on them.
Yeah, I think there's no interest.
No, my
in
Illuminati
control people
yoga
through
pants.
Kundalini yoga. Like that is just fucking bad shit.
I didn't know that was a thing because I thought Kundalini had to do with like, you know, going into certain holes and things like that to unlock Kundalini. So I'm like, what kind of yoga are you doing? What is going on here? I don't understand this.
It's a chakra alignment. You feel and when they say that you feel a serpent crawl up your spine, it's because going around your spine like this is like a serpent would climb something, like, and it's a spiritual experience where you feel very at one with your surroundings. Like I've never had none of this shit, and I took yoga in high school because I thought it'd be an easy way to like pass my final elective credit, and it turns out it wasn't because I'm just like not that much into stretching. But like, there's nothing wrong with that aspect of bringing the body up to like.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but I think what he's trying to say is the difference between just like YMCA stretching and like getting into like deep levels, like high up on the mystical Far East yoga level.
Part of the experience, though.
That's what I was going to say. Is everything he said is subjective as hell.
Yeah.
Like it comes down to what studio is he practicing in. So he mentioned they didn't mention Bikram. So he mentioned Jokti, or what was the other one? Like those are very important details. Because again, like even the practitioner that he was trained under could have been an Alice Bailey follower. You know what I'm saying? So he would rightly associate.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. That's an area that I do not. I've literally went and did yoga once, and that's only because when I was working for Lowe's years back. I moved a refrigerator into somebody's house, and she was a yoga instructor, and she was like, "Well, since you did such a good job, you can have some free yoga lessons." I was like, "Oh, I ain't got shit better to do. Okay, cool, free. I'm not paying for this."
Well, there's yoga just for your body, then there's yoga for your body, spirit, and mind, right? And like this is not to like exalt the caste system of the Hindu empire and shit, right? Like, I mean, there's Sikhs that are very, very anti-yoga of any sort because they were oppressed by the Mughals for so long, right? So like there's a lot of people that look upon Kundalini yoga with like, or any type of yoga really, with like absolute and utter disgust and disdain, right? That is a thing. But like the thing about like it's a demon that takes over you, like you're supposed to channel certain energy in and out of your body to align yourself.
And the self-work would allow you to point that out. But if you remember, he was like, it's not about, or whatever he said about meditation was just really blew my mind, because that guidance, like, I would have not been able to get, you know what I'm saying? Like the ability to maintain and get, a decent handle on, different kinds of addictions would not have come without meditation, not necessarily yoga, but different yogic practices, and just understanding that and doing the self-work. And like hearing him talk, I didn't get that, the self-work part.
He seems like he doesn't
externalizing
process. Like it's an entirely different thing. It's things
he got Ganesh. He said Ganesha.
Yeah.
He didn't even use the right name.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't get it kind of rings true of like the Christian nationalism idea, right? Like it's very Orientalist. So yeah, like F that guy. But like that's what, like there's nothing wrong with Kundalini yoga. There's nothing wrong with any like.
It's demonic if you make it that way, but you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with any type of like work on yourself that you're doing, right? Like you can do physical work on yourself while you do spiritual work on yourself, and you're doing emotional and mental work on yourself. And when you get into those certain poses, it like releases certain endorphins, and it triggers like certain things in your nervous system, right? Like if you have a hose that's clogged and you have it running and you go like this on down the hose, it releases all the stuff that's in there, right? So that's how it was explained to me. So when you act, so you have to, by reflex, open up certain doors, as he said, but it's not like a negative.
Like Tai Chi.
Right.
Yeah, opening the doors is like, that's the thing, is like, and again, the chakra system, sciences have finally been able to like document a lot of this stuff, and I'll get sources for people later on, but it's like we're not talking about stuff that doesn't have a basis in not necessarily scientific, but in a basis in actual, not just observable, but stuff that's been measured in fields and the toroidal estimate, right? Like these are legitimate things that can be measured with electromagnet, or sorry, I forget the name of the it's a magnetospheric tool or something. But anyway, long story short, yeah, it's just like I would like to get his take on Tai Chi.
Yeah, like
it's
Tai
very
Chi
similar.
is because
Like-
I've studied Tai Chi, and Tai Chi is, when I was doing it years back, it was mostly about the breathing and controlling the breathing and
yoga.
I mean,
there's so,
You're
yeah,
right.
yeah,
I just made
exactly.
that
So like there's something that you can do
It's literally
called
like
hot
there's
breath.
yoga.
Yeah, like
thank
hot
you.
breath or fire breath, I think is what it is, right? And it's like you're trying to whisper. So like you're whispering, but you're breathing with your throat constricted in that, and you're doing certain poses. And like when I was already a smoker for like years, by the time I was a senior in high school, taking a stupid yoga course for an easy elective credit that was dog shit, and it wasn't easy.
I almost did the
But
same
like I
thing.
was,
I'm
I was
cracking up
coughing
right
up like all kinds of tar and shit because I was already a smoker for so long. There's nothing wrong with any of it, dude. It's really good for people.
Mr. Street brings up something good here also. Says meditation could be anything from a thought process to physical actions. Just ask yourself, what are you letting in your spirit? Exactly. Because the Bible,
100%.
it literally tells you to meditate on the word. So that means to think about the word of God. So the Bible literally tells you to meditate. It all depends on how you're meditating. If you're actually meditating, or are you trying to channel? I mean, that makes a difference. You might be trying to channel some stuff, and that might be a different category there. But to meditate is a very vague phrase.
Like that's part of, if you're going to channel something, like you would channel something in Kundalini yoga, then you are fully aware of what you're doing it for. Like it's not just for people that want to have yoga on the weekends with a nice latte. No, like it's like some real shit that people do to, like, you know, like some a lot of rappers and like celebrities, they've went and done like ibogaine trips and ayahuasca trips, and right, and like they'll do mushrooms or peyote, and like they'll get in contact with some things, right?
But they never dealt with themselves.
Yeah, it's substanceless though. Like you're aligning your energy to be swept clean of all the things that you don't want in it, right?
And that's where we would say, like, speaking for myself, Fuzz, we would say, yeah, if you're in a different faith and that's a part of your faith, that's fine. But that's when you would get in trouble as far as you know, with the Bible, and when you start messing with all these things, because it tells you to keep a sober mind, and so that would be antithetical to the Bible. But if you're not subscribing to the Bible, then that's a different story. Knock yourself out.
Yeah, like it's just meant like hallucinogens, DMT, all these different things, these spiritual experiences that people have either through the use of psychedelic drugs of any sort or through the use of putting your body into weird and crazy positions and like breathing and like focusing on things. Like fucking right on, man. Like if it makes you a better person, then right on. But like if it doesn't make you a better person, then like you're missing something on that ideology, right? Like if it makes you one of those stuck up bitches in a Prius or some shit, like come on, man. Like yeah.
Well,
Remember like
and
18 coexist stickers?
it literally talks about the Messiah. When the devil is trying to tempt him, you could say he's in a form of like a yoga type state where he's in a meditative state, sitting on a rock and just trying to concentrate. But now his concentration is something, with the Father's word. Whereas in yoga, you might be focused. I don't know what you're focused on. I don't know. Fuzz, you want to say something?
This kind of fasting, the state of mind that Christ was involved fasting for 40 days and 40 nights.
Yep.
Meaning no food or water
into
his body.
Well, and this is also what's very interesting, Marcus, and I don't know how many people know this. And again, Phil, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but from my experience, just from what I've done work in, been around, the only yoga I've done is mostly for athletic injuries, things like that. But been around been around the different environments. What is interesting is that he would go to point out the Hindu, not yoga, Hindu. There's a massive difference between what yoga is as a practice and what Hinduism is as a religion. But he's merged them together, which you may see that in some yoga studios. That's maybe because your instructor is Hindu. That's not like you don't go in there to like pray to Ganesh or Shiva or anything like that. In fact, the reason I know that a yoga studio is bullshit is normally if it's I'm just gonna say it, a white Karen, and then you go in there to Shiva, and she calls it Ganesha or like one of these terms like that. Literally, what he was exhibiting was what I would like consider like the inversion of yoga.
Yeah,
because he's merging he may have even had a Hindu instructor that he's confusing these with because there's very nuanced. But I do wonder that.
Like for sure, man. Like there's dudes just trying to get laid in every one of those. Like the super spiritual ones, right? Like the musicians and like, come on, man. Like,
well, that's what I noticed when I went to that yoga thing. It was like two guys in there. One guy was in there just because I do believe he was really into yoga. The other dude was in there because he was trying to work his way in on picking up on anybody in that class he could get. Because it was like 30. It was like 30 something people. And like three guys in there, majority all younger women. So one guy I know, he was in there because he really was like, I think he had lost like 150 pounds, and he was really about his fitness, and yoga was his way of helping to be away from eating and to be able to get more limber and in shape. And the other dude, I know he's there for other reasons.
Well, I mean, it's just yoga, not just Kundalini yoga, but there is yoga that can be very beneficial to you, right? Like it's not a demon. like
I mean, I'm laughing because in my head I'm picturing like downward facing dog, and I'm wondering if he like took that pose the wrong way.
I'm like, go home, Nancy. It's not the satanic panic no more.
Oh shoot. Let me hop over here. Oh, I got a couple comments over here. Let me read this one in English real quick. Rock friend trying to tell me my identity. Atris. I don't know. What do you mean by that, sir?
Rockfin tells you your identity?
Yeah, what do you mean by that, sir? Please elaborate.
Go ahead.
Oh man, that's how I know when it's getting later, as we start getting silly. Let me translate this real quick. Let's see what our friend Uma is saying over there. Says supreme leadership. Most of them are for the control of positional power. Most of the corruptions will put people in control and place them on their behalf. I can assure you that the bigger the power, the more the problem there will be. So true. And it's
like an instant gratification thing for them. Like they're their intention is not good.
Well, and that's my thing with any of these major top-down organizations. They're always going to manipulate their people, and so it doesn't matter how rosy or nice their language is. I mean, what they say, you know what their actions are going to be. And she also says, and the people who have neither enough power nor responsibility will be killed easily, no matter how many positions of power. Exactly. So they're going to need, and all of these things, they're always going to need people who are going to be the, for lack of better words, cannon fodder. You're going to be on the top. No, there's nothing wrong with my organization. Not at all. And you mean well, but they're going to let you take that heat for, and defend them, be that buffer. And then when they've subdued everybody and their true intentions are going to be let out, that's when you're going to be, it's like, what was that, Children of the Corn? Damien spent all that time rounding up all the other kids. And he realized, oh shit, they want me too. That's how some of these things work.
Oh yeah.
All right, it's late, man. It's late.
All right, yeah, we're gonna close it out. Got those last couple of comments out of the way. Thank everybody who popped in. Right now we currently still have 12 people who are live on the Rockfin. I saw it at one point get up to 14 or 15, so that shows that our Rockfin audience is growing. And as our Rockfin audience grows more and more, we are going to probably reduce and start putting part of the show onto Rockfin exclusively until we start getting larger, because Rockfin is obviously giving us some love and letting us grow, whereas YouTube is not. So Shadow, Jack, can you guys let everybody know what you guys have coming up in the near future? Because I know you're working on an article.
You want me to take a Shadow? Just like
Yeah.
a brief overview?
Yeah.
So we're exploring a term that people have probably heard. It's oxymoronic and paradoxical by design. It's called natural law, which two words should never go in the same sentence. But there's actually some great work around it, because it is actually about looking into your own empowerment, basically, and not in the Alice Baileyan way of my empowerment only comes from this DM or creature that from the nether regions. No, it speaks more about empowerment of yourself on your decisions and understanding offers, claims, things like that. But also more so, it's that the really easiest way to explain natural law I can think of. We found a quote through, was that Bakunin?
Yeah.
And this quote is just amazing, because just trying to find it, a quote to sum up something like this is very hard. But so Bakunin states, the liberty of man consists solely in this, that he obeys natural laws because he himself has recognized them as such, not because they have been externally imposed upon him by any extrinsic will whatsoever, divine or human, collective or individual. Basically stating that natural law is exactly what it sounds like. It doesn't need to be complex. People complicate it to make money off it and sell it as the opposite of empowerment, of you need me for this paperwork, or you need me to explain to you natural law, which is natural. That'd be like someone to explain to me how food works, being on an organic diet, right? Like, or not growing their own food. So we're looking into that. We're also looking into a whole bunch of other stuff as well. Is there anything I missed on that, Shadow?
No, just like we're exploring what the concept of natural law is, what the concept of or what the concept and perversion of natural law is, right? And how we get suckered into following these ridiculous laws, like they're all just made up, like, and how men will use natural law as a tagline to circumvent the laws of nature, right? So, I mean, stay tuned. We're in the beginning phases of it, like, because natural law is a cool spook to write about.
And remember, when you guys get that done, you get let me know, so that way you guys can upload it onto the Rockfin. So hopefully you guys pay attention and look for that. We will, if the guys still want to do that, I don't know. I'm not gonna speak for them, but they do have the option to upload it onto the Rockfin. So that's another reason why you should be following on Rockfin, because that might be another place you'll be able to find it.
Hey, hold on. There was a question that was just put in. Can you touch on the touch base on the armed IRS agents? So,
oh yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, I glanced over the bill. It's a tax law bill. I don't know how to read those. Of all the government documents I know how to read, I do not know how to read tax bills. Like, you got to have like a million years of school to understand part of it.
I'm gonna have you badger Chris about it then.
Yeah, like
I mean, Mr. Streets, the short answer is this is basically going after not anyone even remotely at the higher ends towards the 1%. This is literally an enforcement mechanism from what I can tell. And again, Shadow's right. We're trying to read this kind of shit is very hard.
They repealed the tax subsidy for small farms in its entirety.
Well, that gives me a week.
That means
it gives me a week. So
all those farms, they need IRS agents to come and collect that property.
That gives me a week to study. So we will talk about it next week, definitely.
Like I legit, I cannot read the bill. It's tax code. Like, unless you know the previous tax code, like what codes they're amending, like you don't even know where to look. Like, the tax code is like this thick, and when they're doing a tax code amendment,
it changes yearly.
Yeah, and then they have like this quick little seminar on what the added changes are, but you got to know what all the, like, you got to understand this book to get the little tiny piece of the amendment, and the pages of the bill is like 736 pages or some shit. Like, it's a big boy, like, and it's being called the Inflation Reduction Act.
So just invert that, and that's what it really is.
Like, yo, just hiring just removing a bunch of people's tax subsidies, adding more tax subsidies to some people, and like arming all the IRS agents. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Just the fact of arming the IRS agents, we know that they're not arming the IRS agents to go after people on Wall Street.
Yeah,
but they know where those people are. You can't even.
Yeah, dude, it's just like, and apparently.
So are they arresting everyone and
like shot by the
on Wall Street?
Like,
yeah, no, they're coming after you.
Like, this guy was running a racing parts shop, and the EPA shut his shop down and like killed him. Like, went to do a raid on him for selling illegal racing parts. So I'm like, oh yeah, we just had more federal agents over there, you know.
Wow.
More abuses of power.
Fuzz, you got anything that you wanted to say before we get out of here?
I just wanted to confirm with you, is like we're doing more Geno Jennings next week.
Oh, I don't know if it's going to be next week, but trust me, I got a mountain of stuff for Geno Jennings. Well, I already know, for those who are following me on TikTok, because by the way, I'm on TikTok now. Still trying to figure it out. And what
You're a TikTok influencer?
Yes, I started it. I mean, and here's something that I just learned.
Line, dude.
I can't I want to make like videos. Like, I can't use any of the music from the software, which I've been like the music I use that on videos and stuff on here is copyrighted on TikTok.
It's hitting I believe it's because it's going through the international copyright claims. So you're that's interesting, because I've always wondered that. I wonder if that's because
I can use it on Rumble, on Odyssey, on Rockfin, on everybody else but TikTok.
You don't even own your own content. Nobody does.
No, they're like, no, we're copyrighting your own content.
You should do a parody video just for shrimp. Call it Shrimp's Love Palace, and then have an earpiece, and then like be talking to your handler, and then like have the drapes fall, and there'll be a basement.
Oh, that's sweet. I'm gonna do that. I gotta have like a friend come over and then it's gonna fall down, and they're sitting behind me, and they're like, read the script off to me or something. I got him.
You just be there deadpan. That's awkward.
Jared says, geeks with guns, what can go wrong? Oh, it ain't gonna be geeks. Watch. We're gonna start like, wait a minute. We thought it just used to be the guys with the pocket protectors. Now you're gonna start seeing like these versions of the agents in the Matrix Matrix Reloaded, walking up on you. It's not going to be the guy.
Well, then think about like if you walked into a store, like the way our tax system works is like if you walked into a store and the store owner goes, or you go to say, how much does this good cost, or how much do I have to pay in taxes, and the owner just goes, no, you tell me. But then you go, but you may not agree with that because it's your store.
Yeah.
It's like the French, what is it, like the French justice system, guilty until proven innocent?
Yep.
But go ahead and give those people guns. Nothing bad will ever go wrong, ever.
Well, I honestly believe that they just want to get to a point. They just want to get to a point where they can more militarize the whole police across everything, so that when things get bad, they have backup for martial law. That's I think they're doing.
Nothing.
We'll go into it more later. So because we're getting long on the time, and I know people see them longer. I'm doing, oh goodness, 3 hours, 4 hours. Oh, I'm not touching that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, some people do. I always tell everybody, like, yo, you can break it up. You can always break it up. I'm only once a week.
No, you have to binge watch it all now.
Yes, binge watch everything. Especially like, Jared,
you probably learn some shit.
You will learn a whole lot. Yeah, like if you really are going to binge watch this one and the other one, you're a soldier. That's like 6 hours straight. Yeah, but I wouldn't even tell anybody to watch my own content that long. You might start going crazy. But
the Illuminati could be out to get him. Illuminati.
I guarantee. I wonder.
It's like champagne socialist.
Well, since we talked about Illuminati and we talked about Masons, I wonder which tagline are they going to put up under this video. Because the ones whenever I talk Illuminati, they always throw that Wikipedia damn thing up under it. Like somebody in the chat, they were like, "Wait a minute, how in the heck is this always on every one of your videos?" When I literally watched an account which has over 600,000 people. They don't even put it on theirs, and they literally. In fact, I literally just clipped it from this channel, and it's not the almost. I literally out of that 30 minutes, I talked maybe about 4 or 5 minutes. It's 30 minutes clipped from somebody else talking about the Illuminati, and they put that warning under mine, but not under the original one.
Wow.
Go figure.
That's the definition of selective enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that tells me I got a target on my back. And so if I have a target on my back, then that means something I'm saying over here is making somebody nervous.
No more words.
I think your armed revolutionary video pissed off some.
No, I think my armed revolutionary video just pissed off people on the left. That's all I pissed off.
Mark's sad. Mouse sad. He's sad.
All right. But, much love to everybody out there. Thank you all for tuning in. I definitely appreciate it when you all tune in. And it looked like it was inflated for we know why, but I don't care. I'll take the extra numbers. Hopefully it gets me in the algorithm. Monkeypox coming home soon. Well, like Warren said, stop licking the toilet water.
Warren gives the best advice.
Yeah.
But actually I have no clue what we're talking about.
We have a conversation we had once about anal play and everything.
Oh Lord.
You were right, buddy. It's a conspiracy.
I'll see.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
I know the show is just slowly spinning out of control. We're like that little kid who gets spun around on that little cart and keeps whoa.
Shut up, Polly.
All right. This has been the Political Matrix. I'm your host, Young Morpheus, and next week, Cy Lawson will be back. I'm here with my good friends and colleagues, Fuzz from Hebrew Apologetics with Marcus and Jose, and regulars and returning champs to the show, Jack Sith and Shadowban Refugee. Make sure you guys look out for their next article coming up, and thank you all for tuning in. You will have a good night or a good morning wherever you are, and for this show, we will see you next week. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.